To Fox 13 Plus. We are going to be taking you back out to DC momentarily, where we now know 2 National Guard members were shot and killed in the DC area. We're going to address that in just a moment. But first up, I also want to get to you some breaking news that we have here locally. We do know that a homeowner was shot in Tacoma. We're hearing they are expected to live, but we do have crews en route right now trying to work their way to this area. And if you're in Tacoma, you may be getting messages if you have a school-aged child, because a number of schools are either in a lockdown or a modified lockdown as a result of this. Here's what we know. We're being described a scene where there's a vehicle parked in the middle of the road with shot out windows, and a homeowner was involved here. We don't know whether that homeowner was firing shots back at these individuals, but we do know that homeowner was hit and has suffered what was now being referred to as non-life-threatening injuries. The 2 people that were in that vehicle took off on foot, so we don't know where they are at this point in time, and we don't have descriptions for them. We just know there's a man and a woman that took off. 1 second here, I'm getting some news off camera. Give me just a second and I'll jump right back in with details that we're getting in the newsroom. All right, and we are learning that we're going to have video coming up here in just a second. So our producer will pop that in, and I'll let you guys know once we're seeing that, so we'll get a better idea of what this looks like on the ground. But our understanding is that Franklin Pierce High School and Ford Middle School, which you have marked on the screen here, giving you a good idea of the proximity to the shooting, they were put into a lockdown. We also know that Midland Elementary School and Franklin Pierce High School were put into what are being referred to as modified lockdown. So breaking news into our newsroom. This is the vehicle. This is a live image coming in from one of our photographers on the ground. You can see those yellow police signs there. They're just getting ready, it looks like, to start marking off all the different exhibits for this situation. What we know, there appears to have been 2 people inside of that vehicle, that Volkswagen SUV, and it does look like we're going to be hearing from one of the people on the ground. It looks like Deputy Carly Capetto is going to be speaking. While they get ready there on the ground, I'm just going to show you the location where this is off of 104th Street East. Again, not far from Midland Elementary School or Ford Middle School. Those schools are in modified or full lockdowns because the man and the woman that were involved in this shooting, that were inside of that vehicle that you just saw moments ago, they took off, abandoned that vehicle, and the homeowner was shot and suffered what is being referred to as non-life-threatening injuries. We are going to have crews working on this throughout the day, but it does look like the deputy on the ground is getting ready to give us a briefing. So we're going to jump in there momentarily and listen to what we are hearing.
My name is Carly, C-A-R-L-Y. Last name is Capetto, C-A-P-P-E-T-T-O. I am with the Pierce County Sheriff's Office as a public information officer.
And then is it possible to go just a little bit to the left, just like that way? Just slightly? No, the way. No, you were fine.
That's why I'm close, so I can hear.
All right.
Okay, so what's going on?
Today at 10:06 a.m., we did receive multiple calls from the community around us that there was gunshot between at least 2 or 3 people in this road that we're on, which is 104th Street East and 12th Avenue in the Midland area of Pierce County. And what the neighbors and witnesses were reporting is that there were people out actively firing shots at each other, at least 15 shots right here behind me. So you can see that there is an abandoned vehicle in the middle of the road, clearly with shot out windows and bullet holes in it. We have shell casings all over the road, as well as we have a residence here that was involved in this shooting. And when deputies arrived, the homeowner of this home had been shot with a non-life-threatening injury. He was transported to a local hospital for care, and I have detectives and deputies currently with him interviewing to see what kind of led up to the shooting. We do know that 2 occupants were inside the vehicle here behind me, and after the gunshots had began and ceased, they had fled on foot. So we know that we have 2 suspects outstanding right now. They are presumed to be let me start that over again. They are presumed to have firearms on them right now and be dangerous. So we're encouraging the community to remain inside their homes or report any suspicious activity that they see in the area. We had a middle school here that the lockdown was just lifted, but the lockdown had remained in lockdown status for a long time, longer than they were supposed to be in school. So many parents were waiting for their kids, primarily because this has been a very active scene. We have a very large area of ground that's in a containment status where we're just kind of searching and keeping an eye out for these suspects. And a lot of children from that school walk home, and we just didn't want to release all these kids and community members when we have 2 armed suspects currently right now that are not in custody.
Were there anyone else involved? You got 2 suspects in the car, the person that was shot, the homeowner that was shot. Is there anyone else?
What we know right now is just one homeowner involved with the 2 occupants in the vehicle. We do know that there was some sort of known factor between them, but we don't know what sort of relationship they had. We don't know what started this whole gunfire. We don't know what they were fighting over. So you'll see forensics here, investigators and detectives. They're currently interviewing. We will be putting out a QR code and requesting evidence from the community to submit them to our evidence.com portal to check their ring cameras to see if this vehicle was involved in anything else prior, or they maybe have footage of the suspects in their area where they live. And so that will be coming out shortly.
Were there any other injuries?
We only know that the homeowner has a non-life-threatening gunshot wound. We do not know if the 2 suspects involved that fled on foot have any injuries as well, which is another reason why we'd like to find them, because it could be possible that they have injuries as well, and those need to be addressed.
Is the car stolen?
We don't know that yet. I know that warrants were just approved for that vehicle and the home as well, which is why you see the detectives working behind me through that, and that they're making a lot of phone calls to determine what the status of this car is and where it came from.
Good.
Anything else that you'd like to say?
No, I think I pretty much said everything other than to stay out of the area. Roads are closed. The community will actively see deputies in the area for probably quite some time.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so that is the latest coming in from Pierce County right now. You heard from Carly Capetto, the public information officer there. The reason that they put those schools into lockdown out of an abundance of precaution, in large part due to the fact you had 2 suspects still at large, a man and a woman. We didn't get any details on what they look like. I'll switch over because we're getting a zoomed in shot where you see some of those bullet holes that actually hit the home of that homeowner who was also shot in the crossfire. We didn't really get a full explanation of whether or not they were shooting back and forth, but we did hear her say that there were multiple people firing shots. It wasn't clear whether it was the homeowner firing the shots, but again, they appeared to have known those 2 people in the vehicle, according to investigators that have just got on the scene. So what you're looking at right now are Pierce County deputies on the ground processing that scene, an active situation on the ground. And you may have heard Frankie Thompson, Fox 13 reporter on the ground. She will have continuing reporting on this throughout the day. And as we learn more information, we'll be pushing it out to you here at the Fox local live desk. Simultaneously, I do want to let you guys know we're also tracking a story out of D.C., which we'll be handing off to you in just a moment. Unfortunately, this news just turned deadly a short while ago. So if you're joining us now, we interrupted. We are getting some, well, I should note, we are now getting conflicting reports, my producer just said. So it came out that 2 National Guard members were shot and killed in D.C., a total of 3 people hit. And our sister station now is saying there's conflicting reports on the status. The governor of West Virginia, where those National Guard members were originally stationed but had gone to D.C. for this ongoing situation where Guards members have been called up to go into various U.S. cities. Governor Morrissey writing, "We are now receiving conflicting reports about the condition of our 2 National Guard members and will provide additional updates once we receive more complete information. Our prayers are with these brave service members their families, and the entire Guard community. Now, I'll also show you a tweet that he sent out shortly before this, which is part of the reason that we had put out there that there was 2 deaths. He had written, "It is with great sorrow that we can confirm both members of the West Virginia National Guard who were shot earlier today in Washington, D.C. have passed away from their injuries." So Governor Morrissey initially saying both of those Guard members shot and killed, now saying that they're not so certain. But the latest information that we do have is that 3 people were rushed to the hospital in D.C. just a few blocks away from the White House as a result of gunshot wounds. We, of course, will stay on top of this story throughout the day, but we do have coverage coming in from our sister station in Fox 5 DC, so we're going to hand you off to them right now for ongoing coverage.
Only a block or two, that's the White House, which, as you guys were saying earlier, is on lockdown. One thing about this, what appears to be a tragedy happening in this area, especially this time, right before Thanksgiving, you have a lot of people, tourists, walking all throughout here. We just spoke with a couple of people who said they were from Virginia, a little further out. They came here to D.C., they said, just to spend a nice night in the city ahead of the holidays, and they just so happened to walk by this crime scene and this apparent tragedy. They said they were devastated to see this, and person after person has said, in particular, this is tough to see and learn about just ahead of the holidays. Take a look over here in this direction, back to where we came from. You can see police vehicles, in some cases, still pulling up. That's D.C. police right there. If you keep going to your left, Neto, another police vehicle. And so, as this information trickles out, guys, about what exactly happened here and the condition of various people involved, it is important to remember this is still very much an active crime scene. That police vehicle right there just had to tell people to get out of its way, and it sped down towards the White House. And right now, this is very much the scene. Here, if you look back in this direction, Neto, you can see these are just normal drivers, it would appear, who either parked there or driving by the area. They are trying to navigate this just as we are, just as tourists on foot are, and just as police are. Let's come on back here for 1 second with me. I'm going to see if we can talk to some of these people who are standing by. Excuse me, I'm sorry to bother you. It's okay, I understand some folks not wanting to go on live TV. That's okay, that's okay. Just trying to get a sense for you guys at the reaction among people. I'm sorry to bother you. Could I ask you real quick, ma'am? Let's try this one, come over here. I'm terribly sorry to bother you. I'm Josh. Can I just ask you what you think of all this happening? It looks like you were just passing by.
Yeah, I'm actually on a call. Can you?
That's okay. No worries. As you guys can see, very much a fluid situation here. A lot of people passing by over here in this direction. Families passing by, just trying to figure out, like we are, like police are, what exactly is taking place. For now, I'm going to send it back to you.
All right, Josh, thank you there. I know people are just coming out because they want to see that scene, try to figure out what's going on, but also just go about their day. Bob Barner is also very close to the scene. I think you're near Lafayette Park. Let's bring in our Bob Barner to see what he's got. Hey, Bob.
Hey there, Kenneth and Angie. Yeah, it's fairly quiet here, and anybody who on this day before Thanksgiving, visiting friends, family, or just as a complete family from out of town would have hoped to have been right up alongside the White House gates on Pennsylvania Avenue. Unfortunately, they're kept here. This is at the far northern perimeter of Lafayette Square, right along H Street. And you see a lot of protesters here, and some people have been kind of jawing at each other. And the heavily armed Secret Service uniformed police are maintaining a perimeter. There is police tape here at kind of the main walkway, which would extend south along 16th Street straight down to the front of the White House down there on Pennsylvania Avenue. But the heavily armed uniformed Secret Service police have been here since we arrived here about an hour ago. They are maintaining the perimeter because the White House is on lockdown. So you got to believe there are a lot of people in the White House complex who are hoping to get out maybe a little bit earlier today because it is the day before Thanksgiving, and they're being held in. Nobody's allowed to advance toward the White House. So you see, not many people here. I mean, there's, you know, the pro-Palestinian, release the Epstein files, anti-Trump protesters, but they've been quiet as they realize what's going on here. that the White House is on lockdown. Lafayette Square is closed. A number of the streets in the area are closed as well. And I'm going to have Doug Wilkes pan to the right here in a second and just show you we're on H Street. So some cars are coming this way that are being turned away from the blocked road down there. The next street west of us where they're turning from is Connecticut Avenue. The street beyond that where you see the flashing lights, that would be 17th Street at H. The incident is to the right, 1 block north at 17th and I is where this shooting happened. So pedestrians are able to get as far as Connecticut Avenue, but cars are being kept several blocks away from where we are. Some are able to leave this area, those that were in parking garages here or on the curb, but no vehicular traffic is allowed into this area. Again, you can see some pedestrians, but it's a wide perimeter still around this scene. And as Josh was doing moments ago, we've talked to people as we've been sharing this news, now conflicting news about the conditions of the 2 West Virginia National Guards men, women, we're not sure genders, but who were shot this afternoon, literally just 3 blocks from the White House, slightly north and west of the White House. For what reason, we don't know. You would almost believe if 2 of them were shot, they had to have been targeted in some way, but we don't know. And the gunman who allegedly shot at them, according to our law enforcement sources and even the president's tweet, has been wounded and is at the hospital as well. So it's just an odd scene here. Again, as I come back to the fact that you have a lot of people who are down here for the holiday and wanted to kind of take a look at the White House, and what they're finding is a major crime scene.
I think during your last hit or so, you were talking to and delivering the news that we thought that these guardsmen had been killed. Again, conflicting reports at this point. The governor of West Virginia saying, hold up on that after he confirmed that both members were killed. But now he's saying that there are conflicting reports about the conditions of these 2 guard members. Are you hearing any reaction from the people on the street about these conflicting reports?
Yeah, I think what the most
Say that again.
The questions I'm getting from folks are what literally happened. Hi, folks, how you doing? Hi, where are you visiting from?
Guatemala?
Guatemala. Did you hear what happened down the street here?
No.
But you know the White House grounds are closed.
Yes.
2 National Guardsmen. I don't know if in your visit here you've seen National Guard troops on the street. 2 of them have been shot just down the street. We don't know their conditions.
Wow.
What's your reaction to that? We don't know the scenario that led to them being shot, but there's a chance they didn't make it, but we're not 100% sure.
Well, that's sad. I mean, especially around the holidays. I'm pretty sure they have family, and I don't think that's good. It's scary.
Yeah, have you felt like, did you know what was going on, like that something was going on?
We just heard. We was wondering what was going on.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. By the demeanor of some folks, some were dancing and making videos. They didn't have any idea what was going on or didn't even ask. But it does seem fairly subdued here. And as you learn this, these were most certainly residents of another state who were away from their families here for Thanksgiving.
Yes. That's sad. I guess we just got to pray for them so they can survive.
We hope. Thank you very much, ma'am. Have a happy Thanksgiving. All right, guys, that's the latest here from just outside Lafayette Square, the White House remaining on lockdown at this hour.
Okay, Bob, thank you so much for that. Part of our boots on the ground there fanned out across the scene where this terrible shooting happened. We now want to go to Rich Giordano. He is a law enforcement expert, former prosecutor, joining us today as these details start to leak out. We're still piecing all of this together, just like everybody else. What can you tell us as far as what this variety of law enforcement agencies that are working together, what they're doing at this point as they try to figure out what led up to this moment?
There's a multitude of agencies working together, but they're collecting evidence at the scene. They probably have evidence tech there looking for firearm that may or may not have been used, looking for backpacks, looking for ammo or shells that were discharged. It's still unfolding rapidly. Let's hope and pray that these individuals are still alive and it was just misinformation we all received. I think it's really interesting what Bob was just on, and I think to just to pose, he said, have a happy Thanksgiving. And that's what today should be about. People heading home for Thanksgiving. This is brutally unfair when these unfold, especially to the guardsmen in West Virginia and their families. Their families are probably struggling to figure out who got shot. Are they alive? Are they not? But they probably haven't been able to identify or notify families, and especially with the conflicting reports. This is supposed to be a joyous time. The families were preparing for their guardsmen to come home shortly. They were told they're going to start sending them home. Instead, they may be preparing for long-term medical, or they may be preparing for funerals. I hope not. But I will tell you, from listening to what I've seen from all your witnesses so far, it was very quickly over, rapidly over. Wendy, who was on last hour, said that the person had a hoodie on, leading me to believe that this may have very well been a targeted assassination or attempt, because a hoodie on, they didn't expect it. I think you should have somebody, some boots, your reporters, speak to some National Guard, find out what the rules of engagement are, because sometimes when they're dealing with the civilians, they're not allowed to have certain firearms. They're not allowed to engage unless certain things occur. And I just don't have that expertise, but I think that it makes a difference. But I just want to say that listening to this unfold, we got to hit the pause, because so much is happening. When they have the press conference, we'll get more information. Right. But remember, that's still preliminary. And I just want to say this. Remember, our National Guard in this country, we refer to them as weekend warriors. They get deployed for battles. They get deployed for war zones. But they're kids. A lot of them are 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds. They could work at a Walmart or a grocery store, and then they're deployed. And if you're used to your training once a month, and you're used to your summer training, or to going overseas and guarding our facilities, I think to be tossed into cities to perform a law enforcement function adds stress to them and puts them in a more vulnerable spot. They're all heroes in my book, and I say, just remember, I hope it's not, but these could be young people, and I hope that they are not fatally injured, as was told to us in the past.
Yeah, we pray that it's not the case and that they are still with us. I do want to ask, and there's a future discussion to be had here about the National Guard troops who are in D.C., this deployment being in U.S. cities, because typically we see the National Guard helping when there's a natural disaster, when there are other things that happen, but not pretty much for law enforcement. And I will say the National Guard troops that we've seen here in the district the past few weeks especially, there have been beautification projects. There have been more crime deterrents than actually doing law enforcement duties, because that was not their mandate during the Trump D.C. takeover and the subsequent period that we've seen after the crime emergency is over. But I want to move back to this investigation, the number of agencies, Rich, that we're seeing there on that scene. We've seen these types of incidents before. We've seen mass casualty incidents. We've seen incidents where the FBI is taking the lead. Who is the lead at this point after this incident?
It's probably going to be the federal government, because these were National Guardsmen. What is going to happen is they're going to get all kinds of street cameras. They're going to get store cameras. They're going to get everything they can together, piece this together, and identify. Well, they're going to know who the person is if they're in custody, but they're going to identify what steps did he take. Did he come from the transit system? Did he come from a building? Was it an ambush in front and back? There are so many cameras that we have in major cities that this will be one of the major pieces to put this back together. When they do get the person, they're going to go through their phone, they're going to go through their computers, they're going to get a warrant for their house. They'll be executing a search warrant on this house if they've identified the individual by 8 o'clock tonight is my bet. And right now they probably have law enforcement guarding the houses or the possible house of where this individual lives, so that nobody can get in and tamper with anything. They'll then do forensics on that. They'll use the AI to locate and track where this person may have come from. We've seen all kinds of bizarre incidents. We don't know. Unfortunately, there's so much heated rhetoric that comes across today. You don't know if these National Guardsmen were particularly targeted, or they interrupted a robbery, or they interrupted the individual with a firearm. I will tell you this. I have been with Fox News in Chicago, Los Angeles, and with you people in D.C., and everyone that interviews people on the street, they're happy to see another uniform and boots on the street, even if it's the National Guard. You know, it's another uniformed personnel that gives them more of a sense of calm and peace and deterrence for the criminals when they see law enforcement around. One thing about law enforcement and the National Guard, and I have to tell you this, you know, they condemn the police, they shoot bottle rockets at us, they call us, fry them up like bacon pigs, they ambush people, but they call 911, and the first thing law enforcement says to the dispatchers is, you know, where's your emergency, what do you need? We don't care what your race is.
And Rich, I'm sorry to cut you off. I know you got to go soon, so I want to get this. Can you briefly answer this? Because this is a major thing that just happened, which was conflicting reports that said that the Guardsmen were dead. And then now people are probably wondering, who watching this, how could something like that happen? We know that this happened 2.5 hours ago or so, and that information is coming fast and furious, but typically we wait for law enforcement to step up to the mics and confirm. So how could something like this happen?
Well, how it happens is you got EMTs, you got other law enforcement in there, you got medical personnel. Somebody says, doesn't look good, they're not going to make it. And by the time it gets to the front door, it's that they're dead. So it's like the kid when we were when we were kids. There's a game where you start with one person, go around a room, and it's end. And so there's so much information, and there's such a rush to try to get the information out to the public so they know what's going on. And that's how those mistakes happen. I said earlier, let's hit the pause when we were talking in the segment, the 3 o'clock hour. Yeah. Let's hit the pause and get more information. But there's a race to try to get as much information so people are aware if this is a one-off incident or if there's more fear. But that's how those things happen. They hear somebody in the ambulance says doesn't look good, and then somebody overhears it, and it just gets turned into they're not going to make it.
Right, and this is why we will wait and make sure that we have the correct information before we report it out. But again, that was coming from the governor, Patrick Morrissey, but as soon as he sent out that correcting tweet, we reported that. So, Rich, we know you got to go. Thank you for your time. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, and I pray for these people and their families. And I ask everyone else to do the same. Definitely. They're not down there to get ambushed and shot, and hopefully they don't die. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, of course. We're praying that they're okay.
All right. Thank you so much, Rich, for all of that insight. We'll be checking back in with you. But meantime, we want to head back out to Julie Donaldson. She's joining us from 16th and I Street. This is near the scene where this tragic shooting unfolded. At this point, can you confirm anything about these two National Guardsmen? Anything new that you've come across?
Yeah, no, Angie, it's still a lot of information that's being gathered. And from a lot of people that I talked to when I first got here at 3 o'clock on the scene, they're saying it took place. They heard shots fired, like a boom, 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 like fireworks kind of going off around 2:15. And since then, there have been mixed reports from what people have heard. 2 shots. I've heard some people say that they heard 3 shots. But at the time when they did hear it, it was chaos. People running scared in all directions trying to get away from what they do was a very dangerous scene. And since then, the police, they say, responded quickly. And this has been locked down. When we first got here, we were able to get up to 17th Street. But it wasn't long after that the police wanted to be able to expand their active scene, active search, be able to push all the media back. And there's dozens of media here. And on top of that, there's a lot of people. This is the holidays. People are in Washington, D.C., visiting with family, coming up here to see the sights and the sounds. There's been a lot of pedestrian traffic. They pushed us quickly back to 16th Street. So that's where we are right now, 16th and I. The information, again, that we are getting from those that saw and heard what happened is mixed. And, of course, we really want to wait until we get the information, which will be at a press conference the police are holding. I am told the mayor will be there as well, that she was being briefed on all of this. That's going to be happening over where Nana is. So as soon as we do have that, we know Nana will bring that information. But let us hear some of the sound of a woman who was there when this all took place. And from her account, what happened here?
I was in the Uber. I heard right in front of 17th Street, and I heard boom, boom 2 times. And then the Uber driver said, "Why are all these people running?" So then I look out the window, and it's little children, adults running, children on both sides of the street, running in the opposite direction. The supervision is saying to the children, go, go, run. And then I heard, help, help.
So it was very chaotic, as she said early on, but with the police coming in, with the police coming in here quickly and locking everything down, they said they've had the area very safe, very controlled off, very pushed back here. But what we're having right now is a lot of people that are leaving work, trying to get to their cars, trying to get out of the area that we're here just for what their normal day was before they go off on holiday of Thanksgiving tomorrow. So right now, everybody's just really kind of standing around waiting to get the information from one to the next, which, you know, as they're doing this active investigations. You can kind of see here behind me, when we first came up, there was nothing but police cars flashing lights down this entire street on both sides. It looks like it's died down a little bit, but obviously still down the street, a very, very heavy presence as this investigation continues to be very active right now.
All right, Julia, thank you so much. And I do want to say that Pete Hegseth, the Department of Defense Secretary, has just made a statement on camera. He posted that on Twitter about 11 minutes ago. We are working to turn that around for you, and we will play that out as soon as we get it. But again, we're getting responses from many top officials in the Trump administration. We have heard from the president, who posted on social media calling the gunman an animal, saying, quote, the animal that shot the 2 National Guardsmen, with both being critically wounded and now in 2 separate hospitals, also severely wounded, but regardless, will pay a very steep price. God bless our great National Guard and all of our military and law enforcement. These are truly great people. As the president of the United States, the president goes on. But again, the president has been briefed on the situation.
We want to go now to that video that was just posted online by Secretary of War Pete Hegseth.
Very productive meetings, but I want to start by saying after those meetings, myself and my team were notified that 2 National Guardsmen have been shot in Washington, D.C., critically wounded. The shooter shot in a cowardly, dastardly act, targeting the best of America. Heroes willing to serve in Washington, D.C., serve for people they don't know and they've never met, because they love their country and their capital and their community. They were willing to do dangerous things others were not, because they love their fellow Americans. Someone decided to turn that into targeting National Guardsmen. That will only stiffen our resolve. We will never back down. We will secure our capital. We will secure our cities. In fact, this happened just steps away from the White House. We will not stand. And that's why President Trump has asked me, and I will ask the Secretary of the Army, to the National Guard, to add 500 additional troops, National Guardsmen, to Washington, D.C. This will only stiffen our resolve to ensure that we make Washington, D.C. safe and beautiful. The drop in crime has been historic. The increase in safety and security has been historic. But if criminals want to conduct things like this, violence against America's best, we will never back down. President Trump will never back down. That's why the American people elected him. America and our warriors, our National Guardsmen, are strong. And so we're following this very closely. We're getting information rapidly. And I mentioned the faith of this country, the Christian faith, the prayers. I would ask for prayers for our National Guardsmen.
Excuse me, Mr.
Appeals to heaven for our National Guardsmen, for their families, on bended knee as a War Department, as a nation.
Excuse me.
We will never back down.
Excuse
me. Think about them right now.
Venezuela.
We had a couple of great, productive meetings with the President and Minister of Defense here, where we are dedicated to the counter-cartel effort here. Criminality knows no boundaries, whether it's the United States of America and Washington, D.C., or it's the Caribbean
that's obviously Pete Hegseth at the Department of Defense at the Pentagon there. Moving on to another topic of national interest there, but addressing these 2 National Guardsmen shot in Northwest D.C. near the White House, and giving us a few extra details, a few new details there, including we were wondering whether these guardsmen were targeted. He used the phrase and said they were targeted. The shooting that targeting National Guardsmen. He also added that he will ask the president to add 500 additional National Guard troops on the ground in the district. And obviously, we've been reporting for the past week or so that a judge had ruled that the deployment of these troops was illegal by the president.
Yeah, I think it goes without saying, anybody who's been following this since the National Guard arrived here in Washington, D.C. during this takeover back in August, that this activation has not gone without controversy. And the big question also coming out of all of this, which was partially just answered, at least to an immediate response, who knows what will be added onto that afterwards, but is how is this going to change the landscape of this federal surge here in our nation's capital? When you look at the numbers, I think the estimate was like 2,190 National Guard members currently in the district right now. A lot of them from this area, but as we have seen, other states as well. We've talked a little bit about how these are not full-time soldiers, right? These are citizen soldiers. They have a whole nother life. They have a whole nother job, and it's only when they are called to action, called to serve, and in this case, serve the mission of the president in protecting not only the citizens, but the visitors of the city. They answer that call. And so as a result of that, we are now understand that we are going to see an influx. We are going to see
Well,
additional,
he says that he will put in the request to the president. We don't know if that will be approved, and will the president also use this incident to reignite the crime emergency that has, since been ended months ago in D.C., but yet the National Guard troops remained, and that's been the Attorney General Brian Schwab in the district has fought that. The mayor has fought that. There has been city leaders who don't want the National Guard troops or don't think that they're needed, and that D.C. police alone can tackle any crime issues in the city. But we have seen a decrease in crime. The president, he noted, I think the other day before he took off for his holiday, that there hasn't been one murder in D.C. in the past 6 months. We know that is not the case. A little hyperbole from the president, perhaps there. But we know there has been a drop in crime. The mayor has noted that. Was it because of the D.C. police? Was it the influx of federal officers? We do know there has been a drop, and it has been because there has been more attention in some high crime areas, even though we could debate this and talk about how the fact that some of these troops were not in some of the most high crime areas, and some of the residents pointed that out. You see it on the screen right now. Janine Pirro has put out a statement saying, "God bless the 2 National Guardsmen who've been shot near the White House. As the U.S. Attorney for D.C., I stand ready, as does my office, to seek justice in this case. I am on my way to the scene now." Yeah,
the United States Attorney there offering her statement. I think it's important just to piggyback off what you said, Kenneth, quickly, is that National Guardsmen or Guard members, they are not brought here to engage in policing, right? I mean, there was even controversy when they first arrived that they weren't armed, and there was a call, well, maybe they should be armed, but not called to use it, but just in case. And in this case, we know that preliminary reports say that there was an engagement of gunfire between these 2 individuals and the suspect, who is in custody right now. But the current deployment, as we've said time and time again, have really been in this non-enforcement role. Now we want to go over to Julie Donaldson, check back in with her. She joins us she's close to the scene, I believe. I think they pushed you back, you said, to I and 16th.
Yeah. Yeah, they did. We were over at 17th when we first got here at 3 o'clock, but they quickly said they wanted to expand their active search area and their investigation area, so they pushed all the media back down to 16th Street. So here we are at 16th and I. There's still a lot of course, media out here covering this. There's a lot of spectators that are walking around trying to just figure out what is going on. But we came across Michael. Michael was here at the time that this went down. Tell us, Michael, what time around was it, and what were you doing, and what did you hear?
Well, it was the afternoon, and I was walking to lunch, and got to 17th and I Street, and we heard gunshots. So we ran about 4 or 5 storefronts down I Street. Then we kind of thought maybe it was construction. Then we heard another round of gunshots, probably like 10 seconds later, maybe even less. So we ran a little bit further. Then, after that, like a minute after that, a lot of people thought it was construction. So, like a lot of security people are out in the street. So I went back to get my lunch and witnessed they had one person pinned down and yelling at him to stay down. And then there were two National Guards on the ground. One, it looked like they were trying to resuscitate. And then there were a couple of National Guard that were hugging each other that were obviously very upset about what had happened.
What kind of emotions are you going through as you're witnessing this?
Well, I mean, there's a little bit of adrenaline and, at one point even disbelief, it was a little bit surreal. You see this stuff on TV, you don't expect to witness it yourself.
The man that they had pinned down, wouldn't want to subject that it was a man, but the person that they had pinned down, do you know what they were wearing? Can you describe them at all?
Yeah, like I said, I took some photos. I'd have to zoom in. I do know that it looked like there were two people pinning him down. One man may have been a civilian. He was wearing a black hat and had a beard. And then it looked like there was another National Guard perhaps pinning him as well. And there was a lot of broken glass from the bus stop on the scene as well.
Broken glass bus stop. Why was there broken glass there?
I'm guessing from the gunshots, because it wasn't broken before that.
And you said there were two different rounds of it. Do you know about approximately how many shots did you hear?
I mean, it kind of sounded like 5 or 6 in each round. When we went back, we didn't think anything was going on because there was just one police car there.
How long before it became a heavier police presence?
It took like a couple more minutes for some more police to show up, and then probably about 5 minutes later, a rush of police came. That's when, the police were armed. That's when the EMTs showed up, and then they started to push us back from 17th and I Street across the street from.
Did you talk to any police on just kind of what you saw and what you witnessed at all here?
No, I mean, they had me go back inside my place of business. Didn't want to let us out for a little bit of time. So, we were in there for maybe an hour and a half or two before we were able to get out.
All right, they want to be cautious, put you in lockdown. Michael, thank you so much. I'm sorry you had to go through this, but we appreciate you sharing your perspective and what you saw here today.
Okay.
All right. Again, there's a lot of people that were working here that were trying to get their way out. There still are trying to clear cars out from this area. We have been pushed back to 16th. They're trying to make sure that the area does remain open, as it is a safe area at the moment, but they want to remain open as they continue their investigation. Kenneth and Angie.
Right. Julie Donaldson for us tonight from 16th and I should say, about a block away from where this happened.
Just incredible details from that witness there. And obviously any witness statements or obviously this was somebody who saw the aftermath, but if anyone saw the actual gunman, the actual shooting, we hope that law enforcement obviously speaking with them now.
Yeah, well, and I think that's why we're going to see that crime tape and that perimeter out there for quite some time, because we talked with Rich earlier, who was our law enforcement expert, in addition to just collecting the evidence and making sure that they are able to, recover maybe any type of weapon that was involved. Or it's also important to find people like this.
Yes.
We're looking for them as well, but more importantly, law enforcement, they want the eyes and ears of anybody who was within that vicinity. This guy, he thought it was construction, right? I mean, people heard, they saw things. And so that's going to be more important than ever in determining what are really the unanswered questions right now, which might take days, might take weeks, might take months or years. We might never know. But the motivation behind this, was this a targeted attack? Was it an ambush? These are all things that we're hearing. But again, we are stopping short of jumping to any type of conclusion.
And as you take a live look at GW Hospital there in Northwest, we see a police presence outside the hospital. We have not confirmed if a National Guard's member, if any of the shooting victims were taken to that hospital. We know President Trump said they were taken to 2 separate hospitals. This is the closest hospital to the scene, and we typically see police officers outside the emergency rooms because they handle all types of situations. But we've seen what appears to be more increased police presence there outside the hospital.
Well, we also had reports, too, that the suspected gunman was injured and was hurt and wounded as well. So, I mean, that might be the case as well. Nonetheless, we are there. We are here. We are in a variety of different parts of this story, and we've got it covered, including with Bob Barnard, who joins us now from Lafayette Park. Bob, you've been talking to people all afternoon, and you've been covering the city for many, many years. Bob, just considering what has happened today and what we've gone through over the last few months, it's hard to say how this is going to impact this recent surge we've seen. What are you hearing there on the streets?
Well, I mean, people here are kind of stunned, for sure, those that are hearing this news. But I think one of the responses we just heard from the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, that they're going to send 500 additional National Guardsmen and women to D.C. in the coming days and weeks. So I think a lot of people are impacted just in terms of trying to get home. On this Wednesday before Thanksgiving, we are at the far northwest corner of Lafayette Park. The White House is right here. We've come a block closer to the scene, and we're frankly as close as you can get now, because this is H Street looking down at 17th, and you see all the police there at the scene. I want Doug Wilkes to kind of just pan off to the left here to see not only is it police tape, but you've got heavily armed Secret Service uniformed police here blocking the sidewalks. They are maintaining the perimeter because the White House grounds, the property, the complex is still on lockdown. And now I want to kind of, as we pass over H Street, I want to kind of look north on Connecticut. So this is looking north on Connecticut, where you see those flashing lights. That's I Street. So the scene, you heard the other guys, Julie was at 16th and I. This is Connecticut and I, which is a block closer to 17th and I. And the scene is still obviously an active crime scene with a number of roadways blocked, but also some sidewalks blocked, because you've got people who work in this area. Some, we've seen just a few leaving the White House complex, but there are others who work in these buildings. As you see this vehicle passing here, and someone's going to let him go through this tape, or he's going to go past us. But one of the many people, and actually as he goes by, Doug, show these folks just sitting on the wall here. So you've got a lot of people who are hoping to get home because they're probably off the next couple of days to begin their Thanksgiving weekends, and they're stuck here. And one of them also is Brian. Brian, I saw you sitting on the wall earlier. Tell me your situation here.
I just got off work. I'm fortunate to be able to get home a little bit early, and unfortunately I'm parked in the middle of the crime scene, so kind of stranded at the moment.
Have they told you anything?
That maybe I'll be able to get my car out of the garage at some point tonight, but not exactly when.
All right, good luck, Brian. We want to send it back into you guys. Thank you.
Bob, thank you. We are awaiting that news conference there, where we understand, as you see, Mayor Muriel Bowser, the FBI Director Kash Patel standing by. They are near the microphones now, and they're waiting for everyone to join in. We are hoping to learn a lot more information about exactly the details of what happened, the conditions of those National Guard members. Again, you see federal officials, the mayor, they're standing by.
Yeah.
We're here to brief you on the tragic events that happened today at approximately 2:15 local time in Washington, D.C., where two of our brave members of the National Guard and the Department of War were brazenly attacked in a horrendous act of violence. They were shot. They're in critical condition. As you can see behind me, we have assembled the full force of both the federal and state and local law enforcement agencies to bring bear all of our resources to make sure we find the perpetrators responsible for this heinous act. And make no mistake, they will be brought to justice. Since this is an assault on a federal law enforcement officer, this will be treated at the federal level as an assault on a federal law enforcement officer. The FBI will lead out on that mission with our interagency partners, to include the Department of Homeland Security, Secret Service, ATF, DEA. And we're thankful for the mayor's assistance in this matter, the Metropolitan Police Department and their skills in investigating homicides and gun shootings in this city is exceptional. We will work together collaboratively because this is a matter of national security, because it's a matter of pride. President Trump has been informed. We've been in contact with the White House. We will shortchange the American public with no resources to make sure we find and safeguard our nation's capital right here in Washington, D.C., and bring anyone responsible for this heinous act of violence to justice. I would lastly like to add to the American public and the world, please send your prayers to those brave warriors who are in critical condition and their families. They are here serving our country. They are here protecting everyday Americans and citizens around the world in our nation's capital. They are the heroes of this day, and we must remember them on this day and every day, and their families and the sacrifice they have made. I will now turn it over to Chief Carroll of the Metropolitan Police Department. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jeff Carroll. I'm the Executive Assistant Chief here at the Metropolitan Police Department. At approximately 2:15 this afternoon, members of the D.C. National Guard were on high visibility patrols in the area of 17th and I Street Northwest when a suspect came around the corner, raised his arm with a firearm, and discharged it at the National Guard members. The National Guard members, there were other members that were in the area. They were able to, after some back and forth, able to subdue the individual and bring them into custody. Within moments, members of law enforcement in the area were also able to assist and bring that individual into custody. At this time, as the director mentioned, the National Guard members are being treated at a local hospital. DC Fire and EMS responded to the scene to provide first aid for those individuals and transport them to a local hospital. The suspect in this case was also transported for treatment at a local hospital. Madam Mayor?
Thank you. I'm Muriel Bowser. I'm the mayor of Washington, D.C., and I, too, want to send my thoughts and prayers to the families of the guardsmen and to the guardsmen who are in critical condition in a local hospital. I am joined by members and leadership from the D.C. National Guard, from the West Virginia National Guard, United States Secret Service, Deputy Mayor Pia, Fire Chief Donnelly, and Metro's General Manager Randy Clark, and we join with the FBI Director in ensuring that MPD investigates, the U.S. Attorney prosecutes this case to the fullest extent of the law. I've had the opportunity to brief U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi, who was speaking to the president when I called, as well as the United States Attorney Pirro, who assured me that this case will have her office's complete attention.
Mayor, was there any other suspect?
Chief?
Sure. So no, at this time, there was no indication that there was any other suspect. The one suspect that was involved in this incident, they were shot during the interaction, and they were transported to the hospital for treatment.
Mayor, does this validate the need for the National Guard here in D.C.?
What we know, Andrea, is that this is a targeted shooting. One individual who appeared to target these guardsmen, that individual has been taken into custody.
Mayor, can you tell us any more details on the condition of the two National Guardsmen and whether or not anyone else was injured? And a quick question follow-up for the FBI Director. You said that we'll make sure we find the perpetrators for this act. So just to clarify, the person believed to be responsible is in custody and there are no other suspects.
Sure, so I can start out. Again, Chief Carroll from MPD. So both of the individuals, the Guard members, they are in critical condition at a local hospital at this time being treated. At this point, we have no other suspects. We have reviewed video from the area. It appears, like I said, to be a lone gunman that raised a firearm and ambushed these members of the National Guard, and he was quickly taken into custody by other National Guard members and law enforcement members.
Have you got any sense of motive?
No, at this time, obviously, we're very in the preliminary stages of investigation. There's a lot of things, a lot of agents that are here from various federal agencies, law enforcement agencies. We have the full power of the FBI and our federal partners here in the task force. So we're looking at all those different aspects, but we don't have any motive.
Were the National Guardsmen armed, sir?
The National Guardsmen that were shot, I'm told they were armed.
Did they get off shot?
At this time, that's part of the preliminary investigation.
We know who shot the suspect.
Chief?
Sure. So how the suspect was apprehended, as I said, the individual, the suspect came around the corner. He immediately started firing a firearm at the two National Guard members. So at that time, there were other National Guard members that were in the area. They heard the gunfire. They actually were able to intervene and to kind of hold down the suspect after he had been shot on the ground until law enforcement got there within moments.
And he was shot by a National Guardsman?
At this point, we're still investigating exactly who shot the individual. It's not clear at this time.
Were there D.C. policemen in the area?
We don't know what kind of weapon. There was D.C. police. It happened right in front of the Metro, although there is no indication that the perpetrator was on the Metro. So there's Metro Transit Police in the area, and obviously being on 17th Street by the White House, Uniform Division of Secret Service were in the immediate area as well.
We're going to be able to take a couple more.
I do apologize. I know we momentarily lost contact with our sister station there, but we are going to jump right back in as it looks like they have gotten back in. Here is FBI Director Kash Patel taking questions.
Hang on. I would just like to add the reason that this suspect is in custody is because of the bravery of the men and women of the National Guard who responded. Due to their extensive training to secure American lives today, there was not any further injury and any further shooting. We should highlight the fact that the men and women of law enforcement, the interagency, the Department of War, and the National Guard executed their training with great precision today and prevented an even greater tragedy from befalling us. These National Guardsmen are heroes, and we must pray for their safety and their speedy recovery. And as the chief said, we are in the preliminary stages of this investigation. We will run down every single lead, every piece of evidence. This is the power of the U.S. government at its best at the state, local, and federal level. That is why this interagency group is standing behind us to assure America and the world that we will continue to keep D.C. safe. And thankfully, we have Metropolitan Police Department, the National Guardsmen, and federal agents, and the Department of Justice and the Attorney General willing to prosecute the mission to keep Americans safe. And President Trump has rightly stated that this heinous act will be investigated, and he has thanked the National Guardsmen and women and the men and women of law enforcement.
Thank you. Did the suspect say anything at the time? Why did the West Virginia governor say that they've been killed? Chief, was anyone else shot besides the two?
Have the families been notified?
General, what about the unconstitutional deployment of troops? Why are there 500 more troops?
All right, we were just listening to FBI Director Mayor Bowser, the chief there from MPD, giving us an update on this horrific situation that has played out in the streets of D.C. We're getting some new information about these two guardsmen that were shot earlier today around 2 o'clock, just about a block from the White House. Today, we are learning, in fact, this was a targeted attack where the suspect apparently comes around the corner and starts shooting at the National Guard. Officers, other guardsmen get involved. They eventually pin that suspect to the ground. That suspect was injured. Two of the National Guardsmen critically injured, rushed to local hospitals. And as we've been playing out for the last several hours now, a massive police presence that is unfolding on the streets of D.C. Also, we heard today from Kash Patel that this is going to be, of course, a federal case, the FBI taking the lead on this, as many agencies are now involved in this investigation.
And Mayor Bowser saying she has been in contact with Attorney General Pam Bondi, as well as U.S. D.C. Attorney for the District of Columbia, Jeanine Pirro, and that this person will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. We, again, want to reiterate, contrary to what was reported earlier by the governor of West Virginia, the two guard members from West Virginia are in critical condition right now at local hospitals here in D.C. The shooter was also injured, was shot in the altercation of when he was getting pinned down. So, again, we're hearing from FBI Director Kash Patel and Mayor Muriel Bowser, as well as MPD Chief, that the suspect came around the corner and seemed to target these two guard members who were on high visibility patrol, as they have been doing for the last several months here in D.C. You have seen them all over the streets of D.C. At one point, their number as high as over 2,000. We know those numbers were going to start dwindling after December 11th. But this happening on Thanksgiving Eve, we know those two guard members are from West Virginia. They were not home for the Thanksgiving holiday, right now in critical condition.
Yeah, let's get over to Nana St. She was at the press conference that just wrapped just a moment ago. Nana, what are you hearing? What was kind of the takeaways for you today?
You know, there's still a lot of questions, but we did get a lot of clarification, especially on those 2 National Guard members. We know that they were taken to an area hospital and they're currently in critical condition. So we got that clarification. We're also learning more about the suspect. We're told that the National Guard members, they were kind of doing that high visibility patrol. If you're familiar with this area, the past couple of months, you see them walking in groups of 3, 4, sometimes 5 or 6. And then we're told the suspect comes around a corner with a weapon. We don't know what kind of weapon was used, and opened fire, basically striking 2 National Guard members. Now, because there's groups of these members, we're told at least one of them also pulled out their weapon, because we know that they are armed, and fired at the suspect, who was also taken to a nearby hospital. Just a lot that we're taking in right now. But again, I think the biggest thing that came from that is the condition of these National Guard members. Mayor Bowser was here. She said she had a chance to brief Attorney General Pam Bondi, who was actually speaking with the president at the time of her call. Right now, FBI Director Kash Patel was also here, and he made it clear that you can't do this, and the suspect or whoever else was involved, they will be held accountable to the highest extent of the law. A number of questions here. Was it targeted? Was there a bigger group? Do we know why this happened? The motive? A lot of those questions we don't have the answers to. A lot developing out here. Different moving parts. This is a very large crime scene. Again, I'm just going to step out of the shot just so you can get an idea of where we are. So we're at Farragut Square, the park, and just behind on the other side of the park, maybe a block over to the right, is where the shooting took place, just steps away from the metro. And then another block behind is the White House. But again, we do know that President Trump has been briefed. He has been informed of the situation that is taking place, and we're just on standby here to see what additional information that we can gather here. But some better news than the news that we were reporting about an hour ago. We know that a correction has been made, and those 2 National Guard members are in the hospital right now fighting for their lives. And as the officials here mentioned, they're asking everyone to keep them in your prayers, especially as we enter this holiday weekend, guys.
Just so heartbreaking, especially on this holiday weekend. Nana, thank you. Let's get over to Bob Barnard, who's also covering this for us for another vantage point. Bob, if you can hear us, what was kind of interesting today is we are figuring out that this was targeted. The suspect came at the guardsmen, but also they asked the chief and Mayor Bowser, are there more than one suspect? Yeah. And they said, no, right now it seems like there's just one suspect. That suspect was taken into custody, also injured in this altercation that seemed to happen between both sides. Who else was on the scene? Other law enforcement? That has not been determined.
Yeah, we have seen here in the last couple of hours, this happened about 2:15. ATF, FBI, Secret Service. This is one of the most heavily protected areas in the entire country, if not the entire world. Bob has been over at the White House, right in front of Lafayette Square. A very different scene just a block away, Bob. But what can you tell us now at this hour?
Yeah, Homa and Shirin, we're still in the same basic position we were in. The White House is behind us now. You're looking at one of the scenes here. And what I've just been told by someone who just left the White House complex is that it is still on lockdown, but they're letting people leave, but nobody can go in. And by scenes, like this is right here, the intersection of Connecticut and H. And so if we look to the left, Doug, we'll show to the left here, that is H and 17th. So kind of the backside of the Farragut West Metro Station, which is where this happened. So you see a large police presence here at 17th and H, but then we'll pan to the right here and we see some movement here. So we've been seeing, some of the officials who were at that news conference coming and going. This is looking north on Connecticut from H to I. So the scene is kind of between this vantage point and the other, just outside the Farragut West Metro Station. The issue is that these roads are closed. You can't really drive anywhere in here. These, again, are obviously law enforcement leaving. We're on foot able to get this close, which is closer than most because we're on kind of the back side on the extreme northwest corner of Lafayette Square. But there are a lot of people who are stranded here who maybe can leave the White House complex, but cannot get to their cars. And we were speaking right before the news conference with Brian, who has been stranded here. Brian, tell me again, you were hoping to get out early. It is the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, but your car is inside the closed-off perimeter?
Absolutely. It's an unfortunate situation, but it's a minor inconvenience compared to what some other people are dealing with right now. So just trying to put things in perspective. What
is your reaction to what you're hearing? That earlier we were told these guardsmen were shot and killed by the West Virginia governor. Now the official word is that they're in critical condition, but they were just kind of, in a sense, doing their patrols right around the corner here and were ambushed.
It's very sad. Around the holidays, you hate to hear of any type of loss of life or any type of tragic situation. Unfortunately, it's the perils of being in this downtown area. You just really never know what's going to happen.
Ryan, thanks. Good luck to you, all right?
Thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving. So, like a number of people, Brian can't get to his car. So there are a lot of people who are stranded here, even though, like, we're in a pedestrian zone of the perimeter here. And again, I want to step out to show you, just kind of looking north on Connecticut toward the Farragut West Metro Station is where this happened. And yeah, I mean, was this, I hate to use the word crazy, but was this someone having a crisis that took it out on these National Guards people? Was this someone who has had a beef with the National Guard and the extra federal law enforcement presence in the city? We just don't know. And, you know, if they know who this person is, even though I'm assuming it's a male, that he's in the hospital suffering from a gunshot or multiple gunshot wounds, that if they know who he is, they're going to start getting an idea from his profiles, his online activity, if there is any, what his beef, if there was a beef, was, or they may just find out this is a person who was in crisis and unfortunately was armed and for whatever reason took it out on the National Guard troops. But again, in this whole area around Farragut North Metro, Farragut West Metro, the Farragut Square, Lafayette Square, I mean, you're basically talking kind of almost anything north of Constitution and south of DuPont Circle in this area, say from 15th to 18th, you just can't come or go. I mean, you can see they are escorting some people, and maybe Brian will be one of them shortly, to get their cars out. But it is still a wide perimeter of a crime scene here, and it just the sense we get from the armed Secret Service, you see U.S. Park Police, Metro Transit Police, D.C. Police, this thing is going to go on for some time. So for those who are directly impacted, they know that compared to life and death, it may not be the biggest thing, but this part of downtown Washington, including the White House, which remains on lockdown, it is a mess tonight, guys.
Bob, we know a very active investigation there at this hour, 3 hours after this shooting happened. We know Reagan National had issued a ground stop for security reasons. So this is impacting so much more than just that immediate area. But we also know and want to mention that the President Trump and First Lady have already gone down to Florida. They left for the Thanksgiving holiday yesterday. Yeah. So despite them not being there, again, the White House still on lockdown at this hour. We want to go now to our Josh Rosenthal, who is at that scene, or as close as you can get, Josh, on 16th and I. Josh?
Yeah, just about, guys. We want to give you a little bit of a different vantage point. Bob's a couple blocks in that direction. I'm standing at 16th and I. So if you look up in this direction, you're looking up I Street, and one block up past that crime tape, if you can see it, that is the crime scene. That's where these National Guards members were shot. As you can see, still a very active crime scene. We've seen a lot of police coming and going since we've been out here for the past couple hours. One change that we've noticed since the last time we came to you live is now it does appear as though some general traffic is coming through too. So perhaps some streets near the crime scene, not at the crime scene, of course, but nearby, have been opened up. Now, if you come over in this direction, we want to be careful because that traffic's flowing again. You can see just about 2 blocks over there. That's the White House. That's how close this was to where it all happened. And of course, for months now, this is an area where we have seen a lot of members of the National Guard patrol. Now follow me over in this direction. I want to introduce you to Melanie. Melanie, thank you so much for joining me. Melanie is in a familiar position to a lot of people down here tonight. Of course, the most important thing is what transpired, the condition of the National Guard members. But another part of this story is how everyone else is being impacted by it as well. Melanie, you told me you were just leaving work. walking by. First of all, what's your reaction to seeing all this?
I'm just shocked. I can't get to my car. I'm parked just a few feet away, and I don't know how I'm going to get home.
Which is another part of this story. This is a very, very busy area. You have people getting off work. You also have a lot of people who've come down here to D.C. for the holidays. We spoke to a couple people earlier who said that they were just here to spend a night in D.C. A lot of them can no longer get to their vehicles because they're too close to the crime scene. Melanie, first of all, I'm sorry to hear that. Has anybody talked to you? Have you been given any guidance?
No, not yet. I just came from work and I came here. I saw the crowd and the cameras, and I just don't know what to do. I was planning to ask around to see what to do. So in terms of getting home.
I'm really sorry. If we get information, I will be sure to bring it to you. The other thing I will mention here, and we've heard from so many people, is that this would be difficult no matter when it happened. It's especially difficult given that Thanksgiving is tomorrow and the holidays are coming up, right?
That's correct. I was on my way home to start my weekend, to start the holiday, and now I don't know what time I'm going to get home. We're
thinking about you. Thank you so much for speaking to us, and good luck with everything. And also, of course, guys, tonight we're thinking about these two members of the National Guard who were shot here and who officials tell us are in critical condition. One more thing, if you could walk up this way, Jesse Burkett Hall doing a great job. That is the crime scene here tonight. It does appear as though some of these roads are a little bit more open than they had been previously, but still a lot of activity and a very active crime scene and investigation that is ongoing. Guys, for now, back to you.
All right, Josh, thank you. To Josh's point, this is a very densely charged area. I mean, we're talking about from civilians to offices to law enforcement, so close proximity to the White House. So already that area is so full of people normally. Now, this is like the day before the holidays. So some people still trying to get out of the city, others coming into the city. Here's what we know so far. So we know 2 National Guardsmen have been shot. They are in critical condition tonight. They were essentially targeted by a suspect who came around the corner, started shooting. There was some kind of an exchange. That suspect was taken to the ground and was taken into custody. Those 2 guardsmen now at a local hospital. Huge police presence in the area. We just heard Mayor Bowser speak. Also, the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, saying that this is prompting 500 additional National Guardsmen to now come into the city to increase that force, that federal force that we've been seeing over the last several months, where we saw thousands of guardsmen all over the country. Again, these 2 guardsmen from West Virginia. We want to go to this is a witness soundbite, right?
Actually, I think we're going to go back out live now to Julie Donaldson. She has been on the scene for hours now, just after this news broke. Julie, you were initially right there on the scene at 17th and I, pushed back as police expanded the perimeter. We know that they said they have that 1 suspected shooter in custody. He was also injured in some way by gunfire when the takedown happened. The 2 Guards member that are currently in critical condition. Julie, what can you tell us about where you're at right now and what you're seeing and what you're hearing?
Right now, there's just it's kind of like the amount of people that were here earlier when we first got on the scene at 3 o'clock, and we were up much closer on 17th Street, where you could kind of see the National Guard still standing around, and where the police were barricading off, and just very, very early, as even now they're still in preliminary parts of their investigation, but this was very early. I talked to some witnesses that said they heard it around about 2:15 in the afternoon. They heard what was gunfire. Many people kind of a little bit confused on what they were hearing as well. While it was gunfire, they thought it sounded kind of a little bit like fireworks. Some even said they thought maybe it was construction that was going on. And after that, there became a little bit of chaos. To my understanding, we have one of those witnesses, and let's hear from their account.
I was in the Uber. I heard right in front of 17th Street, and I heard boom, boom, 2 times. And then the Uber driver said, "Why are all these people running?" So then I look out the window, and it's little children, adults running, children on both sides of the street, running in the opposite direction. The supervision is saying to the children, "Go, go, run." And then I heard, "Help, help."
And we talked to somebody else earlier as well that was down here, and he said he was working in his office, and he heard 2 different rounds of shots going off, and they saw somebody that was pinned to the ground. And Stacy there said that the person was wearing a hoodie. But there's a lot of different accounts that we're trying to get from people to understand, as we are, just kind of what took place here and exactly why. Of course, they said that this was targeted. But there were so many people that were out here just kind of like trying to see what was going on. And a lot of people we talked to as well, while they're local, they're working here. There are also people here that are on vacation. I mean, this is a holiday time, of course. We know D.C. is one of the top attractions in the country, and people coming out just trying to see the sights. In fact, I just ran into another couple that was from South Florida. Their daughter is celebrating her 13th birthday up here. She said she was in her hotel room, and she saw everybody just running down the streets, police presence coming on in, and she was definitely a little scared. And her parents weren't in the hotel room with her until they got back to realize she is safe, she's okay, and they can continue on with their holiday plans here, but not without a disruption, because this is very disturbing for anybody that's here. I mean, there's a heavy presence, of course, of police down here as they're doing their investigation. There's a heavy presence of media down here covering this case. There's a heavy presence of people just in curiosity as to what's going on. But as we're learning of the critical condition, and there's been a lot of different talk I've heard from very people who saw what was going on of exactly the extent of that. But we'll wait for, of course, more information as that does come out. But right now, the police presence is still on down the street, not as heavy as it was before, but this will, I'm sure, carry on for quite some time until we do get all the information that does come from tonight and from today's just unfortunate. I mean, when you really think about the heart of this, everybody's here to celebrate Thanksgiving, and now families are being told that their loved ones are not in a state to be able to celebrate with them on this day.
Julie, it has truly been devastating, I think, as everyone has been dealing with this. And again, you see that massive law enforcement presence out there, along with people who just live and work in that part of D.C. And so many people, as Julie mentioned, who are visiting from out of town or people who have returned home. It was a very chaotic scene when we first broke in around 2 o'clock to see so many people down there. And we've been hearing from the president, who is down at his resort in Palm Beach, Vice President J.D. Vance, who is in Kentucky. Again, so many people traveling for the Thanksgiving holiday. And now we want to hear from Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth talking about adding more National Guard members in light of this shooting that happened just blocks away from the White House.
Heroes willing to serve in Washington, D.C., serve for people they don't know and they've never met because they love their country and their capital and their community. And someone decided to turn that into targeting National Guardsmen. That will only stiffen our resolve. We will never back down. We will secure our capital. We will secure our cities. In fact, this happened just steps away from the White House. It will not stand.
Yeah, the White House on lockdown. The President, First Lady at Palm Beach getting their holiday celebrations underway. We also heard from the President today, who said, who called the suspect an animal who will be paying a very steep price. Has said that he is with the National Guardsmen, who are truly great people, as you heard Hegseth saying today, that they are heroes. Let's get over to Nana on K and 17th with more she is seeing at this hour as this investigation is unfolding. Nana, this is going to be some time as they interview witnesses, go through all the video surveillance, kind of get all the evidence on the crime scenes. And this is a very wide perimeter.
Yes, it's going to be what we know as a all hands on deck investigation. A number of agencies coming together to try and get to the bottom of what took place here. So as mentioned, I'm on K and 17. This is right by the park, and I'm going to just step out of the shot for you just to get an idea of how big this scene is right now. So this presser just actually wrapped up about 20 minutes ago, and a lot of information was clarified that I just want to go over just so we can catch everyone up to speed. The biggest thing is the condition of these 2 National Guard members. We now know that they are both in critical condition at a nearby hospital. We also know that a suspect was also injured during the shooting who is at a hospital. We'll get to exactly how police describe the incident took place, but I just want to mention a lot of leaders at this press conference, including FBI Director Kash Patel, who opened by calling this act horrendous act of violence, and also wanted to make clear that no one should make a mistake forsaken. They should know that justice will be brought and they will be treated to the highest level of the law. He went ahead to thank Mayor Bowser for her assistance. Mayor Bowser also spoke and said she is in communication with Pam Bondi, and when she called Pam Bondi, she was on the phone or with the president at the time of this incident. Now let's go back to 2:15 this afternoon. We're told National Guard members were doing their job, patrolling. If you've been anywhere in this area in D.C. these past couple of months, that's what they do. They patrol these areas. And that's when a suspect came from around the corner with a weapon and just started opening fire and struck those 2 National Guard members. There was other members in the area who were told then pulled out their weapon, because we know that these Guard members are now armed, and fired at the suspect, and that's how the suspect got injured. Again, these 2 National Guard members rushed to a nearby hospital, are fighting for their lives. But Mayor Bowser just tonight asking for the community to send their thoughts and prayers to the families of these 2 National Guard members, but also the families of all National Guard members who are out here doing their job. This is what they're doing. They responded and they're here. They've been here for months, and we just have this unfortunate situation that kind of unraveled here today. A lot happening. Like we mentioned, the scene is just so big, it's extensive, so it's kind of trying hard to try and gather where everything took place, but we believe it was straight down behind where I am standing, just about a block away from the White House on 8th Street. A lot developing, but as you mentioned, this is a all hands on deck approach to figure out what took place. You have local partners and federal partners involved in trying to piece together. But right now, the biggest thing, especially that Mayor Bowser was calling for, is that everyone come together and just pray for those Guard members who are currently in the hospital, for their families as we head into Thanksgiving tomorrow.
Nana, thank you so much. And truly devastating, as if you've been in or around D.C. in the last several months, you have no doubt crossed paths with these National Guard members. Yeah. They've been sent here from all over the country, Texas, Ohio, West Virginia. At one point, their highest number was 2,200 National Guard members on the streets of D.C. They were inside the metro stops. They were at the National Mall. They were in the neighborhood. So many people have had interactions with them, and this was not without controversy. A lot of people did not want them here, but they have been a part of our lives here in the district for the last several months. Just last week, a judge ruling that their presence here from out of state was unlawful. The judge putting that on pause to send them back until December 11th. That is just, a few days away that the numbers were going to start dwindling. But while they've been here, we've seen them with their beautification efforts of D.C. They have been picking up trash. They have been mulching. They have, again, been inside that metro stop all throughout downtown D.C. And today, these 2 Guard members from West Virginia who were shot, they were doing what's called a high visibility patrol. That is simply being there, their presence, walking the streets in their fatigues to make people feel safer, to say, listen, we're here. If you need help, we're here. Their presence, the president pointing to and the vice president pointing to, driving a drop in crime here in the last few months since this initiative has started. And so to see this happen again on Thanksgiving Eve, they were not home. They were not with their families. They have been away from their families for months. It is tragic. We're taking a live look right now at a GW hospital less than a mile away, where 3 people were taken from that scene. We know the 2 Guard members who are in critical condition, and one, the shooter, who, again, President Trump is calling an animal. AG Pam Bondi saying they're going to prosecute to the fullest extent of the law.
Yeah, I mean, as we take a live look here at the emergency room, a lot of questions remain tonight. What exactly is the current condition of these 2 guardsmen? As of a few hours ago, critical condition, a lot of prayers, a lot of people hoping and praying for the families. A lot of the guardsmen, as mentioned here, that have been in Washington, D.C., have no law enforcement background. They are simply volunteering there and dedicating their time to keeping our streets safe. Now, I guess the bigger question now as to what happens from this point on. How does the landscape of D.C. look like with more National Guard troops? But again, this happening a day before the holiday when these guardsmen were supposed to be with their families is truly heartbreaking. We don't know if it's 2 men, women. That has not been clarified, but clearly the families have been in touch with law enforcement tonight. And of course, that is the hospital where we believe those guardsmen are being treated. The suspect also at a local hospital as well. Let's get back to Bob Barnard, who was tracking it all for us from the streets here. Bob, anything that you're hearing? Are you still seeing a lot of folks trying to get to their cars and get back home? Again, it is the night before the holiday.
Yeah, Sharon, people are just trying to get out and about, whether they're leaving work or they're visiting town and trying to get somewhere that they can't cross through the crime scene. And so they're trying to figure out how far wide and around they have to go to get where they're going. And they're people we've been seeing all this time. And Brian, who got out a little bit early today on this Wednesday before Thanksgiving, hoping to go home early, is still here now. I will tell you that it's been 3 hours now since the shooting, and the White House remains on lockdown. However, we have seen people leaving on foot, but none of the vehicles that are within the complex barricades and surroundings here that are leaving. So, you know, there might be some people, because of what's happened just a block away from us, and the White House is right behind us here at Lafayette Square, between us, might still be in working, but a lot of vehicles are stuck in here, and yet people, we're told, aren't allowed in, but they can leave. And others who work in this area and park in the various garages around here are stranded as well. And you see, this is one of the armed, uniformed Secret Service officers maintaining the perimeter here, which the intersection we are at is Connecticut Avenue and H Street, and there are some vehicles that are leaving that are part of the operation here. But as we pan to the right here and look north on Connecticut to I Street, that is the crime scene. And as you're looking at your TV screens to the left there, which would be going west, down I Street to the Farragut West Metro Station. So that is where this all started. And there are a number of blocks in this, a radius of this area here, to include the White House, that are closed off right now. And you have a lot of people, I've heard people say, we're trying to get to dinner over there, and they're like, well, you have to go way around. So people trying to leave and go home, others who have appointments or reservations in this downtown core area, between, say, DuPont Circle, Farragut West, and Farragut Square. They're stuck, and you see these people sitting here, and it's going to be tough to probably see. We're just going to quiet for 1 second as this little procession of that Secret Service. They didn't even wait. I don't know who this is or what that is, but the armed Secret Service officer I've been showing you has been lowering and raising the police tape when cars have come and gone. These guys drove right through it. So, honestly, if that's just someone trying to get somewhere casually, that was a little ridiculous, because, there have been people walking across the street because the street is closed to other cars, but not to pedestrians. Like this guy is going to go right through these two officers. I sure hope he saw him. When you guys normally see something like that, you think, okay, there's a fire, there's a car accident, there's a shooting, something's going on. So I wonder if something else is going on, or if those are just officials and upper echelons of the different law enforcement agencies trying to get somewhere. They're going awfully fast, and I won't say recklessly, but again, in their path are a lot of pedestrians, because these roadways are look at this lady right here. The roads are closed to vehicles, but people have been walking around, and those guys just whipped through here and blew through the crime scene tape. So that's the first, and we've been out here a couple hours. I haven't seen anything kind of move with that urgency since we've been here. And it's going to be hard to see, Doug, but I do want to, if you don't mind, panning over to the right there and seeing Brian, who we spoke to a short time ago, who left his office early, who at this hour, almost 5:30, is still sitting here on the wall there because his car is in one of the garages that's inside the perimeter. He's not the only one, but he's the one we've been speaking to, who are kind of stranded by the ongoing investigation. Of course, even he was saying, I don't mind the little inconvenience in light of the fact that you have two visiting National Guards members from West Virginia who are in what we're told, bad shape, if they're still hanging in there, in the hospital, apparently ambushed here on the streets of D.C. Just literally, it's less than a half mile, so it's like 2.5 blocks from the White House here in downtown D.C., Sharon.
And Bob has been in front of the White House for us. Bob, thank you so much for that vantage point. And you saw law enforcement racing through that police tape.
Yeah.
We know at the press conference that they had about half an hour ago, we had FBI Director Kash Patel, MPD Executive Chief Carroll, and Mayor Muriel Bowser, who we want to hear from right now, as really this is seeing an incredibly heavy national and local police presence.
We join with the FBI director in ensuring that MPD investigates, the U.S. attorney prosecutes this case to the fullest extent of the law. This is a targeted shooting. One individual who appeared to target these guardsmen, that individual has been taken into custody.
Yeah, and they were saying this is going to be treated as an assault on a federal law enforcement officer. What's really, I guess, incredible about that moment is how quickly the National Guardsmen acted, because to our understanding, this suspect was taken down quickly, and if not, this could have been a much different scene that is playing out right now. But again, one suspect in custody. They have been injured. We don't know their identity, their motive. That may take days or weeks to come. And 2 National Guardsmen at this hour still in critical condition. But as you heard the mayor say, this was a targeted attack. So again, that motive will be very critical. Let's go out to Julie Donaldson, who's also covering this from a different angle. Julie, the impact this is having on the entire city. I mean, we just saw police officers racing through that crime tape, because at the same time, just driving through the streets of D.C. when there's not a perimeter is difficult, let alone emergency officers, police that have to get somewhere. This is difficult tonight.
Yeah, Sharon, we're here and we're all covering the same story, but the world's continuing on, and there are other things that are happening. People need to come and go, get to work, get home, get ready for their holidays, and be with families. And this is a very large perimeter that has been roped off. Again, we were earlier when we first got here at 3 o'clock. We got to be able to be down on 17th Street, and then they pushed it back. They pushed that perimeter back to 16th Street. So now we're all back up here, a good block away from where the crime scene happened. But people are working still, and a lot of places went into lockdown. Kojo is one of those. We're seeing people that are trying to get out of this. Tell us, this happened earlier around like 2:15. What was the state in your office when this took place?
Well, it was like all of a sudden, out of nowhere, one of my colleagues ran and told me he just heard gunshots outside, and then he looked out the window and saw a lot of people running. And then we checked into it, found out little details that were sporadic but not totally accurate. But now, we were just locked up in there for pretty much the whole day. This is my first time coming out.
When your colleague says that he hears gunshots, what do you do? What do people do in that moment?
People do different things. Me, I don't know. It's like I get into everything's turned very serious then, so. We just made sure there wasn't nothing going on inside the building. And then once we found out we were on lockdown, they locked all the entrances and exits in our building. We were fine.
So is that lockdown, obviously you're out, lockdown's lifted, are people able to try and get home now?
Yes, absolutely, yeah. I'm ready to go.
What is that messaging when you do go into lockdown?
It was a building message. I guess some of the key people, they started to make sure everybody knew what was going on, and it just goes through the building, word of mouth.
When you're hearing the information unfold and you're hearing that it's 2 National Guardsmen, what are people saying? What kind of discussions are you having? Like, are you able to continue working, or does this kind of overtake your afternoon?
It's distracting. Yes, and you just want to make sure it's not a domino effect that's happening. So you want to make sure that you can get home to your family, and it's kind of nerve-wracking.
Speaking of family, did you need to call them and let them know that you're safe, knowing that you work right here where this took place?
I did, yeah. I had to call my wife, and I called a couple of friends that know I'm down this way, and they were saying they were watching it on the news, and they were just checking in on me as well. So, yeah.
How are you doing right now?
Well, I'm fine right now. Yeah, I'm fine right now. It seems like they have it all under control.
And we know Kojo is coming out here, some leftovers from a holiday party. So I know you want to get home to your wife. Again, this day being just so unfortunate of people thinking they're going to celebrate with their colleagues and go to work and be able to go home to their families. And this is so disruptive. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us. Let me send it back to you guys in the studio.
All right, Julie, thank you so much. And as all of this is unfolding, of course, not only here in the nation's capital, but across the nation, we are hearing people respond to this horrific crisis that we are dealing with here in D.C. Of course, we heard from President Trump calling the suspect an animal, that he will pay the ultimate price. Also thanking the brave men and women of the National Guard, saying, I am with you as your president. There was some conflicting reports earlier when we heard from West Virginia's Governor Patrick Morrisey, but he does write, our prayers are with these brave service members, their families, the extraordinary men and women of the Guard who put themselves on the line every day. West Virginia stands united behind them, and we will not rest until justice is served. I know a lot of other people, Homa, have been kind of weighing in across the country.
Vice President J.D. Vance is in Kentucky, again, for the Thanksgiving holiday. He has said he's praying for the National Guard members who have been shot, again, in critical condition at this hour at a nearby hospital. He says they are sword and shield. We know Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has said he spoke to President Trump, and they will be boosting the number of National Guard troops who are deployed here in the district. Right now, they're at 2,200. They want to add an additional 500 troops, saying the goal is simply to make D.C. safe and beautiful again. So we have heard, from leaders all over the country at this hour. Again, these two National Guard members right now in critical condition. The shooter has reportedly also been shot, suffering a gunshot wound when he was taken down. Mayor Bowser and FBI Director Kash Patel saying this was a targeted attack, that the shooter came out from behind a corner, targeted these two Guard members who were doing a high visibility patrol, as we have seen them doing for months here on district streets right now. So let's go back out live to our Josh Rosenthal, who is on 16th and I. Josh, what are you seeing at this hour?
Yeah, guys, that's exactly right. We're standing at the intersection of 16th and I. This isn't far from where we just heard from Julie earlier. And if you just briefly look in that direction, the shootings took place at 17th and I, so 1 block up that way. If you follow me over here, this is towards the White House, which is only about 2 blocks in that direction. I want to introduce you to Laura. Laura just walked up, started talking to us, and Laura works at 17th and Penn. You left work early today, you said, and you came back here, and why was that?
I came back. I actually just wanted to see the scene and say a prayer. I've had a lot of recent exposure to the National Guard because I work at 17th and Penn, obviously across from the White House, but also at Logan Circle, which is nearby. And I just have seen the good that they're doing. The crime is down, and I want my friends in the suburbs to know that they are not militant at all. I have seen them work with homeless people and help them get to a shelter. They've actually been quite kind. You can breathe again around here. When a couple of months ago, before they started working here, someone was actually shot in Logan Circle and murdered. And this is because crime has changed in D.C. over the past 18 months. Just the way it's being done. Teenagers are now getting out of SUVs and running around. It's not the typical crime that it used to be.
And Laura, if I may jump in. No, it's okay, and thank you so much for talking to us. I do think that this context is important because the deployment of the National Guard is not without controversy, and everybody can feel however they feel about that. However, when you talk to people about their actual interactions with the people, not the entity, but the individuals who are here patrolling and who tonight are victims of what appears to be a tragic crime. Often what you hear when you talk about the people is that you've had these positive interactions. So whether or not you like that they're here, the guardsmen themselves, what you're saying is that they've done a good job. You've appreciated having them here, and it sounds like you've talked to a lot of them.
I have, and they've been very restrained, and they actually have a guidebook that they go by, and we just welcome them in our neighborhood very, very much. It's important to feel safe. and certainly want to know more details of what happened down here so close to the White House, where the Secret Service is obviously based as well.
Laura, before I let you go, we talked about how you work at 17th in Pennsylvania, so you only work about a block away. You were not here at the time of the shooting. She had left early and had come back, but what is your reaction to having something like this happen so close to where you work?
Well, I think it's an absolute tragedy. It's an absolute tragedy. Again, no matter how you feel about the deployment, these are men and women who are serving our country and doing the best that they know how to do. And they mean no harm and certainly do not deserve to be shot and even potentially killed.
Thank you very much for your time, Laura. Please be safe getting home, and thank you for speaking with us. One more time, guys, if you just want to swing in this direction, Jess, maybe come on this side of the pole here. I do just want to show you one more time the crime scene here up I Street. We're walking towards I and 17th where this took place. Still very active, still a lot of emergency vehicles. Some traffic is moving through here. We have talked to quite a few people who just so happen to be down here trying to go to dinner, trying to come home from work. But again, this investigation, it is ongoing, and guys, as I send it back to you, it goes without saying that this is likely going to continue for hours and hours into the night.
Yeah, I mean, listen, this is something that the investigation is going to take potentially days, weeks, months until we find out the clear picture exactly what happened. Just another point here that the National Guard troops, I mean, most of these folks have civilian jobs. They are here on a part-time basis, volunteering to up security cases in cases of national emergencies. Again, 500 more National Guard troops are going to be coming into this D.C. because of this. But your heart goes out to those families tonight that are grieving because they don't know what's happening to these two National Guardsmen. These are their friends, their families, their comrades, people that have been working alongside for quite some time.
And so many of them deployed here to the district for months now. They are away from home. They're away from their families. Yeah. Even tonight on the eve of Thanksgiving, where all you hear people talking about is going home to family, to spend time with their family. They were here on the streets of D.C. House Speaker Mike Johnson praising the heroic work of the National Guard, writing the National Guard has done heroic work this year, working around the clock to make our nation's capital safe again. We are forever grateful for the swift actions of law enforcement and for all those who risk their own lives to protect everyone else. And you're hearing from Democratic leadership in the Congress also speaking out right now. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer saying, "My heart breaks for the victims of this horrific shooting." House Rep Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries also writing he's praying for them, thankful for the brave law enforcement officers and first responders who swiftly apprehended a suspect. I do want to point out right now at this hour, we don't know the identity of that suspected shooter. We're really not even close to having a motive at this hour, but we do know that that person was shot and has been taken to a local hospital. Still a lot of unanswered questions, 3+ hours after this incident unfolded right there in the heart of D.C., just a couple of blocks away from the White House. Let's get back out to our Nana Santubonsu, who is on 17th and K. We heard in the last hour from Mayor Muriel Bowser, Executive Assistant Chief Carroll from MPD, and FBI Director Kash Patel. Nana, what can you tell us now?
Hey, Homa. I want to get to kind of how we got here in a second, but you did bring up the eve of Thanksgiving, and that's what we keep hearing out here even just moments ago. People just can't believe that this kind of horrific act would happen on the eve of Thanksgiving and right here in the heart of the district. Like you said, Mayor Bowser, Assistant Chief Carroll, and FBI Director Kash Patel, the message they were all kind of sync with is just praying for the family members of these two National Guard members who were just out here doing their job, patrolling. I'm going to get out of the shot so we can kind of reset where we are and what took place starting around 2:15. So we're actually looking down straight through the Farragut Square Park. 17th Street is to the right of your screen, where we're going to slowly pan, and straight down that street is where we're told this incident happened. So let's go back to 2:15. FBI Director Kash Patel describing this as a horrendous act of violence. We're told these two National Guard members were doing their job. It's called visibility patrol. They kind of just walk the streets to make sure everything is okay. That's when this suspect, who is still currently unknown, comes around the corner, opens fire, striking these two National Guard members. members. We know that they do walk in groups. So there was a couple not too far away, a couple of National Guard members who also removed their weapons because they are armed and fired at the suspect. FBI Director Kash Patel calling those National Guard members heroes. They were able to stop that suspect. We know that 2 National Guard members have been rushed to the hospital where they're fighting for their lives. Mayor Bowser also just adding, once again, please send thoughts and prayers to these families who are just with their loved ones again the night before Thanksgiving. Bowser also added that she has briefed U.S. Attorney Pam Bondi, who was actually speaking with President Trump at the moment. So a lot that we're trying to gather. It's still an active scene. I asked if we're actually going to get an update or if officials will have new information for us tonight. And we're told if necessary, they'll come back out here. But right now, their focus is on being with those 2 National Guard members who are in the hospital and also trying to figure out why and how it all happened. We asked about a motive during the press conference, and Assistant Chief Carroll was not able to provide an answer. He says all of that is part of their investigation, but we do know that at least these 2 National Guard members were obviously targeted by the suspect. Why, we don't know, but we're working to find out. You can hear just the sirens, a lot taking place here. Again, and it's also rush hour now in the middle of downtown, so there's so much taking place. We have tourists in town. We have people who live here just getting off work, all just shocked by this news that 2 National Guard members, and remember, they've been down here for months. So for a lot of people who work or live in this area, they see these National Guard members almost sometimes becoming part of their community. So one lady was even saying, oh my gosh, which one was it? Is it trying to describe different people? And we were just told them we don't know. Right now, we just know that they're in the hospital. So something that's definitely impacting people who live and work around here. Hearing that people that they potentially see every day are now in this current situation. But guys, I'm going to send it back to you as we continue to speak to people and just try and figure out what's going on.
Yeah, a busy night, a chaotic night in the streets of D.C. Nana, thank you so much. Just to kind of give you a little visual as to where this is all playing out, we've been talking about this happening essentially just a block or 2 from the White House. I mean, you can see that proximity right there, 17th and I, 17th and K. That's a very dense area. A lot of law enforcement already permeating that area on a normal basis. A lot of cabinet members coming out of the White House, a lot of civilians, people working in that area, businesses. This area is so highly congested that you can imagine something like this happening in broad daylight at 2 p.m. How traumatic that can be. One of our witnesses we spoke to earlier, that spoke to Julie, just said it sounded like maybe construction work, the bangs of construction work. But then he actually had witnessed the 2 guardsmen on the floor, potentially one of them being resuscitated, another suspect on the ground. For people just walking by, getting out of work, going on their lunch break, that can be very jarring to see. So again, just a chaotic night here in the streets of D.C. as we're trying to figure out exactly what unfolded. We might not get those answers for some time.
Absolutely not. I mean, this is one of the most highly protected, highly surveilled areas in the entire country, just mere blocks away from the White House. And one thing that really stood out to me that Nana was saying was a woman asking, is it so-and-so National Guard member? I think when they first got here, a lot of people were jarred by their presence, walking in the subway stations, walking in the metro, walking along the National Mall in their fatigues. You saw them posted up with their vehicles outside of Union Station. And at that time, it was jarring. And now they have become, to so many people, like friends and families that you see on your way to work. And so that really does hit home. They're expected to be here through summer 2026. There's a lot of court battles going on right now with whether they should, their numbers should be reduced.
Whether they're illegally here.
Right. Whether they should stay. And now they're saying that they will be adding 500 more. And so truly, I mean, just such a sad, tragic situation for this to have happened again on Thanksgiving Eve. So now let's go back out to our Bob Barnard, who has been outside of the White House, Lafayette Square, for the last several hours. Bob, what can you tell us?
Yeah, Homa, we've been speaking to people from all over the place. Locals who, the sentiment that I heard earlier, someone speaking to one of my colleagues saying that I was not happy, and I'm not happy that the National Guard is here on our streets, but this is awful. They're humans. They didn't deserve this. And a gentleman from Australia who said, I love coming to D.C. I come here every year. I can't believe this has happened. We are literally right behind my photographer, Doug Wilkes, is the perimeter of the White House complex. Right behind him is Lafayette Square, and then the White House just a little further back. But we're here to show you the scene here. This is looking north on Connecticut Avenue from H Street, and the roads are still closed. The White House is still on lockdown. We are seeing some people leave. Nobody's been allowed to enter the White House complex, which is more than just the White House and the grass and the fenced area around it. And there are others who are still stranded here, as Josh and others have spoken to, whose cars are parked inside the crime scene perimeter and can't get out. So that's kind of the way the situation is now, 3.5 hours after this shooting. And the nature of it, that's the question I think a lot of people have, is what was this all about? And were these guardsmen targeted because of who they are? And we just don't have those answers yet. But the impact is that this thing is being investigated. They believe it was a lone wolf actor involved who was in the hospital, detained, so not an active situation, but this crime scene is being poured over, and it is extended beyond where this happened, which was at 17th and I Streets, right outside the Farragut West Metro Station, catty corner from Farragut Square, and on the other side of that, the Farragut North Metro Station. So you've just got a wide area that is blocked off to vehicles. We're in an area where pedestrians can get to, but not beyond here. So we're speaking to people who are trying to get to restaurants that are just a block west of us, but unfortunately they can't go through the crime scene. The couple from D.C. was trying to walk to an event at the Kennedy Center, and it was going to be a much longer walk because of what's happening here. And others just stunned by this act of violence so close to the White House, targeting people in uniform. I mean, anybody who's spent some time here in D.C. and is aware, we have crime in D.C., even though since the federal surge, the president will say there hasn't been a homicide and crime is down, but the mayor will say it's been trending down since the high of 2023. But this kind of crime in this area is just so unusual, and for even those who are not thrilled that the National Guard is here, heartbreaking for the young people who were targeted. And we don't know their ages, their genders, but we do know they were National Guardsmen, Guard members from West Virginia who were not home with their families. As people here, we've seen large families together and others trying to get home to their families. They will tonight at some point, those who are still stranded here. And if you pan off to the right here, Doug, you can see there are just still some people here kind of like at the crime scene tape, wondering where they can go and how they can get home. But they will get home tonight. There are a couple of people from West Virginia, citizen soldiers, who will not.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the heartbreaking part that we're all trying to digest, right? Bob, thank you so much. Is a lot of these families now bracing for news as to the condition of these two National Guardsmen? Just to catch you up briefly, this all unfolded after 2 p.m. today in an ambush attack. A lone gunman coming around the corner near the White House, about a block or two, near 17th and I, targeting National Guardsmen, shooting at them. Other National Guardsmen intervened. There was some kind of back and forth. A suspect was taken to the ground. That suspect now also injured at a local hospital. The Guardsmen, we are waiting to get an update on their condition. There was some confusion earlier in the day as to what's going on with them. Again, latest we have heard they are in critical condition tonight. But again, the devastating scene that is playing out. You can see hours later the scene that it looks like right now in the streets of D.C. with a massive police presence. So many different law enforcement agencies will be involved in this. But FBI Director Kash Patel saying that this is going to be a lead from the federal agency because they see this as an assault on a federal law enforcement officer. Let's listen to him.
The reason that this suspect is in custody is because of the bravery of the men and women of the National Guard who responded due to their extensive training to secure American lives today. There was not any further injury and any further shootings. We should highlight the fact that the men and women of law enforcement, the interagency, the Department of War, and the National Guard executed their training with great precision today and prevented an even greater tragedy.
And that's FBI Director Kash Patel. We also know Mayor Muriel Bowser has been in contact with U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi, as well as D.C. U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro, saying they will prosecute this suspected shooter to the fullest extent of the law. At this point, we do not have an identity of that shooter. Name, age, not even a gender has been revealed at this hour, about nearing 4 hours after the shooting happened. But we do know that that person was taken down by National Guard members who were also in the area. And if you've seen them walking around D.C., you typically see them traveling in pairs or packs of several of them, walking through the metro stations, walking along the National Mall. Again, we have seen them going on 4+ months now. More than 2,000 National Guard members on district streets. Whether you agree with them being here or whether you don't, they have become sort of the fabric of D.C. now, as their presence has been very well known. And these two particular Guards members who were shot were doing a high visibility patrol in that area, again, just a couple of blocks away from the White House. So let's go back out, back out live now to our Julie Donaldson, who has been on scene just minutes really after all of this broke. Julie?
Yeah, Homo, we were supposed to be celebrating tonight Alex Ovechkin scoring 900 goals. We were down at Cap One Arena and getting ready for that and talking to some of his teammates and a ceremony that was being taken place. This is also a time where people want to celebrate the holidays. There's supposed to be a lot of positivity on today, and we get the call that there is a shooting and there was an active shooter down here, and we get here as fast as we can. We get here about 45 minutes after that shooting took place, which was approximately around 2:15, according to witnesses that we talked to. We got here basically right at 3 o'clock, and already this street behind me was lined with police cars, flashing lights all the way up and down the street on both sides of it. It was such a heavy presence of police. There were cars that were marked, so many cars that were not marked. As we know, this is a investigation between so many different departments coming together to figure this one out and try to figure out exactly what did happen. Of course, we've had more details from that. But as I talked to a lot of different witnesses today, there were some different accounts on how many were injured and just what were the extent of those injuries. Some people didn't want to go on camera because they were so disturbed from what they saw and what had taken place. But we did talk to some, and here's their account.
I was walking to lunch and got to 17th and I Street, and we heard gunshots. So we ran about 4 or 5 storefronts down I Street. Then we kind of thought maybe it was construction. Then we heard another round of gunshots, probably like 10 seconds later, maybe even less. So we ran a little bit further. Then, after that, like a minute after that, a lot of people thought it was construction. So, like a lot of security people are out in the street. So I went back to get my lunch and witnessed they had one person pinned down and yelling at him to stay down. And then there were 2 National Guards on the ground. One, it looked like they were trying to resuscitate. And then there were a couple of National Guard that were hugging each other that were obviously very upset about what had happened.
As some of the witnesses I talked to were very disturbed on the events that they did see. Since then, we've talked to a lot of people that are just trying to get out of work. Their places went into lockdown. They've been in there all afternoon. Again, this was around 2:15 this afternoon. Places went into lockdown pretty early. So here we are a couple hours later. We even had some folks that are trying to get to their car and trying to ask police, can they be able to get to that so they can get home to their families and be able to hug the ones that they're with. As we know, some tonight are not, from this devastating news of these National Guardsmen that are in the hospital and fighting for their lives. For all that we know, is we're just continuing to get more information from this. Now, I want to give you a little bit of the scene, because when we first got here, again, we were on 17th Street. We got pushed back to 16th. But I want Brian Gregg to kind of show you a little bit of where we are right now. There were dozens and dozens of media. It's starting to clear out a little bit as the evening does carry on, but you can already tell just how many people are still out here, all of them trying to gather as much information as they can on just what was happening here tonight. And it continues continues all the way down the other side. It has just been a lot of, people trying to go through what they are hearing, talk to people that are coming out, trying to gather as much information as we can. But as the severity of the injuries to the National Guardsmen has gone on, you could feel it being a little bit heavier. When we first got here, there's a lot of people out here for the holidays walking around. We talked to people from Georgia. We talked to people from Florida that were just up here trying to enjoy a birthday, trying to enjoy Thanksgiving, and this comes and disrupts and disturbs their day. There's a lot of curiosity earlier. Now that you know the severity of it, it's a little bit heavier, I will say, definitely out here. Never want to have any of this news at all, but people have like a little bit more of a somber feeling about them, realizing just the severity of what took place here tonight.
All right, and that is the latest coming out from our sister station in D.C., Fox 5, covering these 2 National Guard members that were shot. We know one suspect is in custody, and if you were watching us earlier today, you do know that there was that false alarm at one point in time when the governor of West Virginia announced that those 2 Guards members had died. They since have retracted that statement. All right, more news still to come here on the Fox Local Live Desk. That is going to include continuing coverage out of Pierce County, where a homeowner was shot. We had some live coverage on this earlier today before we hand you off to our stuff coming out of D.C. We want to get you back into this as Fox 13's Frankie Thompson has been on the ground working on this story. We have some new details, including new sound coming in from locals in that area who heard those gunshots go off. Welcome back into the Fox Local Live Desk. We've got a live look from our Capitol Hill camera looking out towards the mountain. You can kind of see it as you squeeze in between the views and those clouds there, but disappearing slowly. Give you another view in our area out at Seattle-Tacoma International Airport. So it gives you a good idea that haze, that fog, that gray, really going to depend on where you're located at this hour. All right, welcome back in, everybody. Matthew Smith here, as always, inside the Fox 13 Seattle newsroom. Now, I want to get you guys caught up on some of our details that we've been tracking on other stories while you were listening in to our sister station out in D.C. talking about this tragic situation where 2 National Guard members were shot, 3 people taken to the hospital. It sounds like the shooter was among those rushed to the hospital. At last check, those National Guards members are in critical condition. But here locally, we're tracking the latest after a homeowner was shot. We're told these are non-life-threatening issues, but we did want to get you guys caught up on this one because when we last talked, we knew that there was a number of lockdowns in that area, and there was probably some concern, especially for Franklin and Pierce school districts. We had a number of schools that were either in a lockdown or a modified lockdown. Now, since that period in time, we've heard that those have since been lifted. Kids are getting back home, but we also know we got a chance to chat with some folks on the ground while you guys were out listening to different coverage out in D.C. First up, want to hear from Rashid Johnson, who lives nearby this area where all of this went down, what he had to say after hearing those gunshots.
Inside my house across the street playing the video game or whatever, and then I hear gunshots and I think nothing of it, so I'm just like, whatever, I'm gonna keep playing. And then about 10 seconds later, more of them go off, several rounds to where I can't even count. And so I look out, and by the time I look out, there's 2 people getting out of an SUV with gunshots in it, already broken windows. So action already went down, of course, but other than that, I didn't see too much.
Is this alarming for you?
Yeah, it is, because I have a 3-year-old, and so me and him are in the house just right across the street, and then kids are getting out of school already besides my own, you know, so knowing that danger is right outside where you check your mail, it's pretty scary.
Is this kind of concerning? You know, it's right outside your home, you got schools right down the street. Has anything like this happened out here before?
So, not that, usually you'll hear your gunshots, but when you look out, you don't see anything. You're just like, okay, I just hear the gunshots or whatever. But for example, Daniel, he just came by, like this is an active street for children, so hopefully it doesn't, pick up, hopefully things could die down. But in the past 2 days, I've had my own incidents where I'm just walking down the street and I've got stopped by people driving in the cars, so it's definitely spiking up.
So are you going to be a little bit more aware of your surroundings now?
Yeah, of course, just checking the mail, just from even when I just go out front to play basketball with my son, just knowing anything can happen at any time.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah.
All right, so that was Rashid Johnson. As you just heard, he said that he lives nearby this area. The latest details we have on this situation, it sounds like we've got 2 suspects still at large, a man and a woman that were actually inside of that vehicle that you just saw images of moments ago on your screen there. Honestly, just a terrifying situation where we know there was roughly 15 shots fired is what I think we heard from those that were on the ground just a short time ago. Deputy Carly Capetto with the Sheriff's Office actually breaking this down for our crew in the field. Let's listen.
At 10:06 a.m., we did receive multiple calls from the community around us that there was gunshot between at least 2 or 3 people in this road that we're on, which is 104th Street East and 12th Avenue in the Midland area of Pierce County. And what the neighbors and witnesses were reporting is that there were people out actively firing shots at each other, at least 15 shots right here behind me. So you can see that there is an abandoned vehicle in the middle of the road, clearly with shot out windows and bullet holes in it. We have shell casings all over the road, as well as we have a residence here that was involved in this shooting. And when deputies arrived, the homeowner of this home had been shot with a non-life-threatening injury. He was transported to a local hospital for care, and I have detectives and deputies currently with him interviewing to see what kind of led up to the shooting. We do know that 2 occupants were inside the vehicle here behind me, and after the gunshots had began and ceased, they had fled on foot. So we know that we have 2 suspects outstanding right now. They are presumed to be, let me start that over again. They are presumed to have firearms on them right now and be dangerous. So we're encouraging the community to remain inside their homes or report any suspicious activity that they see in the area. We had a middle school here that the lockdown was just lifted, but the lockdown had remained in lockdown status for a long time, longer than they were supposed to be in school. So many parents were waiting for their kids, primarily because this has been a very active scene. We have a very large area of ground that's in a containment status where we're just kind of searching and keeping an eye out for these suspects. And a lot of children from that school walk home, and we just didn't want to release all these kids and community members when we have 2 armed suspects currently right now that are not in custody.
Were there anyone else involved? You got 2 suspects in the car, the person that was shot, the homeowner that was shot. Is there anyone else?
What we know right now is just one homeowner involved with the 2 occupants in the vehicle. We do know that there was some sort of known factor between them, but we don't know what sort of relationship they had. We don't know what started this whole gunfire. We don't know what they were fighting over. So you'll see forensics here, investigators and detectives. They're currently interviewing. We will be putting out a QR code and requesting evidence from the community to submit them to our evidence.com portal to check their ring cameras to see if this vehicle was involved in anything else prior, or they maybe have footage of the suspects in their area where they live, and so that will be coming out shortly.
Were there any other injuries?
We only know that the homeowner has a non-life-threatening gunshot wound. We do not know if the 2 suspects involved that fled on foot have any injuries as well, which is another reason why we'd like to find them, because it could be possible that they have injuries as well, and those need to be addressed.
Is the car stolen?
We don't know that yet. I know that warrants were just approved for that vehicle and the home as well, which is why you see the detectives working behind me through that, and that they're making a lot of phone calls to determine what the status of this car is and where it came from.
Good. Anything else that...
All right, so that was the public information officer for the Pierce County Sheriff's Office. We've got the map back up on your screen just to kind of give you an idea of where this is located. The latest update, they have cleared out that area, so the scene is no longer active. And of course, Franklin Pierce School District, they did lift those lockdowns. So all the schools that you see listed here were affected in this. Midland Elementary School, Ford Middle School, Franklin Pierce High School, all of those have since been able to basically clear out and allow kids to return home. But you still have 2 suspects at large in this case, a man and a woman that were inside of that vehicle. And you, of course, have the homeowner who was shot, again, with non-life-threatening injuries. So much more for us to get to, and we will have additional reporting coming up in the 4 o'clock hour with Seattle News Tonight. Frankie Thompson on the ground right now, and she'll have more information for you as it comes into the newsroom. Meanwhile, we also have another situation in Pierce County, a hazmat situation, or a gas leak, if you will. We'll jump in and have a little bit more conversation, details on what we know about that coming up after a short commercial break. All right, welcome back in, everybody, once again to the Fox 13 newsroom. I'm Matthew Smith, kind of tracking some of these stories for you. You know, for a long time, we were keeping eyes on this situation out in D.C. where 2 National Guard members were shot, but that doesn't mean we stop anything behind the scenes in terms of all the things that are kind of coming into our newsroom. I do want to get you guys caught up here locally on a what was being referred to originally as a hazmat situation, but it looks more like a gas leak. These are some images after a situation in Tacoma along North 5th Street and North Sheridan. A hazmat team called out to that area, as well as Puget Sound Energy, trying to resolve a situation here. Sounds like a construction crew actually hit a gas line. That's the information that we're getting in from the fire department. Now, we also got some video that came into our newsroom. It's short, so you're going to see this kind of on a loop here. Somebody sent this into our newsroom, just kind of giving you a view up and down the road. What we're hearing from fire crews is that the hazmat team and Puget Sound Energy were all down there trying to resolve the issue. They never evacuated the area, but at last check, we're told that they went door to door so they could actually talk to all the people that live in this area, sort of as a precautionary measure. They refer to it as a shelter in place that they were asking the residents to follow along with. They are still monitoring the situation, but right now they say no evacuation orders are necessary. We'll give you another look here from one of the pictures that was sent into our newsroom from fire crews. They said if they were to need to evacuate the area, they could do so, but they are just going to continue to monitor it, make sure everything's okay. I'll actually flip back just one picture. Kind of a concerning photo there. You hear about the construction crew that hit that line. You can see that cloud kind of shooting up into the air. We do have a crew that is in that area. They've been kind of working their way down there for a while due to traffic. It's been very hard to get into this area, so we will have more information on this one as we continue to work this as a newsroom. And just like we had with that story from Fox 13's Frankie Thompson, we of course will also be tracking this in Seattle News Tonight. One of the many things that we've been working on throughout the day to make sure you guys get caught up. All right, more to do here in the Fox Local Live Desk. We also have been getting caught up on some of these less severe, less concerning stories, some of the things that we've had a chance to be tracking for you today. Seattle Seahawks getting ready for their matchup with the Minnesota Vikings, and UW, the Huskies football team, getting ready for a huge matchup, one of the biggest rivalries in the country, University of Washington versus Oregon University. So this is a chance for the Huskies to play spoiler. So we had a chance to talk with their play-by-play team. Tony Castacone, he's going to be stopping by interview that we did while you guys were kind of sitting in that breaking news coverage earlier today. We'll jump in and hear more from him coming up after another commercial break.
And my quick question for you is, the woman who he jumped in with, that's not a carjacking, that's somebody that was with him, correct?
All right, welcome back into the Fox Local Live Desk, trying to get out of those clouds from our camera out looking towards Mount Rainier. It is another day where, boy, it is just really hard to get away from the gray, but we are working our way there, and we're getting closer and closer to Thanksgiving for everybody that's going to be celebrating. Did want to get you guys an update. We're going to jump in with my conversation here with Tony Castricone, the play-by-play announcer for the UW Huskies basketball team as well as the football team. But first up, I did want to let you guys know we just got word coming in from Tacoma Fire that they are no longer asking residents to shelter in place out there. We just talked about this before the commercial break. They say gas is no longer leaking out of the broken line. Residents are now free to move about in the neighborhood. They said Puget Sound Energy will be the ones that are in the neighborhood. They still have a couple hours left to put in those repairs. So on your screen here, a video from what it looked like with the large fire crew response earlier today. But the good news that we're just getting into the newsroom, that doesn't look like it's going to be a concern moving forward. In the meantime, let's talk a little bit about Huskies Ducks. Yes, we are getting ready for a big situation with one of the biggest rivalry games of the week. And we'll actually get to that with Tony in a second here, as he says this is one of the biggest rivalries in the entire country. But first and foremost, we got to talk about his digs, because he's not actually in the place he typically is this time of year.
We're in La Quinta, California. Washington off to a good start in men's basketball as well, as the Dogs are getting ready to play Nevada in the Acrisure Invitational on Thanksgiving Thursday, and then they'll play again on Friday. So a busy weekend all across UW Athletics. Of course, women's soccer is competing in the NCAA tournament and playing so well. It's just a really exciting time.
Yeah, Aaron Mayovsky has been cheered on that women's team and making sure that they are front and center here in our newsroom, and for good reason. They're doing great, and what an incredible story. But meanwhile, you've got two huge stories you're covering. Not only a good start to the UW men's basketball season, but also you've got one of the best rivalry games. I saw you put out online that there is an argument to be made that this is one of the best rivalries in sports. Kind of walk me through what makes this so special.
Well, I think, first of all, these two institutions, Washington and Oregon, which are going to meet for the 118th time this Saturday, they go way, way back. But, I think one thing that is important about having a great college football rivalry is the history. And there's no shortage of stories between these two and reasons that the fan bases have grown to not like one another very much. But then I think you also need to have two really highly competitive teams that have a lot on the line when they play. And that's the case again this year. Washington sitting at 8-3 on the season, 5-3 in Big Ten conference play, probably a little bit overlooked. A lot of the computer ratings in college football have Washington as a top 20 team in the country, but the AP voters, the CFP ranking committee did not find Washington, for whatever reason, worthy of a top 25 ranking heading into this weekend. And meanwhile, Oregon is trying to play for a college football playoff spot. And if Michigan wins and if Oregon wins this weekend, they'll get into the Big Ten championship game. So there's a ton on the line. I think over the last decade, the last 9 meetings in particular, this has been as compelling of a rivalry as any in the country, with tons of back and forth. Washington has won 5 of the last 9, but there's been tons on the line. Of course, Michael Penix going 3-0 in the rivalry, leading the Huskies to the college football playoff a few years back. And then, Washington going to Oregon, playing the game at the end of the season as the rivalry has entered this transition to the Big Ten Conference, and Oregon getting their revenge a year ago. So it should be an incredible atmosphere on Saturday. Both teams have a ton at stake, and I just can't wait to put the ball on the tee at 12:30 for what's going to be a great Senior Day celebration at Washington.
Well, as someone who spends a lot of time close to this team, let me ask you, because I heard Coach Fish talk a little bit about they don't need play spoilers. This win just matters because the game matters. Could you take me inside of that thought process here? Because I know a lot of UW fans probably want to play spoiler, but at the same time, for those on the field, I got to imagine this game matters more than spoiling something.
No doubt about it. I mean, I think it's always fun fodder for fans to have the conversation about, well, we would like to do something to disrupt what another team is doing, but I don't think athletes or coaches are ever going to be opponent centric. They're worried about what's at stake for themselves, and what's at stake is a 9-win season, a 6-3 record, and what's considered one of the top 2 conferences in all of college football. And I also, going back to what I said earlier, I think the opportunity to get a little bit of respect for the job that Jed Fish has done in this rebuild has been incredible. This program lost quite a bit after its national championship game appearance against Michigan, and I think they've rebounded exceptionally well. They went 6-0 at home a year ago. Now they're sitting at 8-3 with a chance to get to 9-3 and trying to knock off one of the top 10 teams in college football and really get a landmark victory. So, it's now in modern college football, so much of the national conversation is about the college football playoff that we don't always necessarily appreciate what's at stake for a team like Washington, which I think there's going to be a drastic difference in what kind of quality bowl game they would get between, an 8-4 record with a lost Oregon and a 9-3 record with a win over Oregon. So there's so much on the line for the Huskies this week. And, I think as this rivalry continues to evolve, bragging rights, recruiting is at stake. They're often going after the same players. So it's a massive game for Washington.
Well, and I know UW's been showing off some depth. Once Jonah Coleman went down, you wondered where the offensive production would come from. All of a sudden, everybody that runs the ball for UW can punch it into the end zone. They have firepower. What does it take, though, to beat a top 10 team like Oregon this season?
Well, I think the one thing that has been the difference between Washington being 8-3 and maybe being 10-1 right now with a lone loss to the number 1 team in the country has just been turnovers. Untimely turnovers. They went -3 in the turnover column against Michigan. They went -2 at Wisconsin. And what turnovers really do is they kill the field position for you. And that gives, another team an opportunity to play on a short field. It obviously kills your opportunity to get into the end zone or get 3 points with a field goal on that drive. So turnovers are everything. And I just feel like that's really what jumped up and bit the Huskies in those couple of road losses that they had. But if they can win the turnover battle, and they were very impressive in that the last couple of weeks, particularly at UCLA, where they forced 3 fumbles and recovered all 3, that's going to be something that changes the game. And I think you look at both of these offenses are among the most explosive in college football. I think Oregon is number 1 in percentage of plays that go 20 yards or more. Washington's number 4 in that category. So both offenses are plenty prolific. I think Washington's defense has been really good. No one scored more than 25 points on the Husky D all season long. So I think what it's going to take is just like, those small details. You just can't, you got to have great ball security. You can't afford to have that miscue or 2 if your opponent doesn't also return the favor. And so, I think it's going to probably come down to a few plays here or there that'll make the difference. And if those plays go Washington's way, I don't see any reason they can't win the game.
If it comes down to a few plays, is there somebody specific, maybe we call them an X factor on offense or defense that you're looking for? Is there somebody that could change the game, you think?
Well, when you're talking about turnovers on defense, I point to 2 guys. Deshaun Lynch on the defensive line has just been awesome. He had a quarterback sack a week ago. Scratch that. He had a fumble force and a fumble recovery a week ago, and he also had a pass breakup. He's got the most pass breakups on the defensive line for any Husky since 1987. He has just been a game wrecker, 300-pound guy that plays both inside and out on the defensive line, very athletic. And so, he's who I'm looking at. And then on the back end of the defense, Alex McLaughlin had the fumble recovery for a touchdown against UCLA. He had the pick 6 in the Apple Cup game at Wazoo. So those are the guys that I think could be capable of having those game-breaking plays on defense. On offense, I think they're starting to get healthy. The fact that they played Denzel Boston and Jonah Coleman a little bit, I thought was a good sign last Saturday against UCLA. Damon Williams has been explosive all season long. And then we're seeing other guys like Adam Muhammad, Jordan Washington, and the depth at the receiver group. Omari Evans is a senior who on senior day has had a lot of explosive plays in his career. So, I think those guys are certainly guys that I'm going to be watching for. I know Dan Lanning's going to be watching for them as well.
And I'd love to know if there's a storyline that you're feeling particularly close to as we go in. I know you don't like to write a story before the thing unfolds, but are there things in your mind as you walk into such a big game that could have impacts on the bowl game that they end up going to, as you mentioned, some kind of story that you're kind of forming in your head going into this?
I think it goes back to the beginning of the conversation, honestly, where I just think that this is the best rivalry in college football over the last 10 years. I think every single year has been a new chapter in what's been an incredibly compelling book. And I just know whatever's going to happen on Saturday is the next chapter, right? And so that's the storyline, is we're just going to kind of wait and see how this thing evolves and unfolds. And then to the victor go the spoils. But man, it has been so interesting, from Jake Browning kind of having the point and the Huskies putting 70 on the board in 2016 and getting another blowout win in 2017. But Oregon, having that one kind of spoiler in the Rose Bowl season for the Huskies in 18. Then Oregon gets some momentum back in 19, and they end up going to the Pac-12 championship game in 20 when Washington was the better team, but they couldn't make the game because of COVID. Like, the stories just come on and on and on. And it's just been so fun to follow. And whatever we get on Saturday is just going to be the next chapter and what's going to be one heck of a rivalry moving forward in the Big Ten.
Well, we did also mention off the top that you were on the road. You're in California right now. I imagine you have to be packing a lot of suitcases for your job and your line of work. Where would you like to get that plane ticket or that bus ticket? I don't know what the budget is for travel these days, but where do you want to end up in terms of bowl games, or do you ever look that far ahead?
I don't really look that far ahead that often because, there's so many variables at play, and it's not just about what UW does, but they'll be slotted based on what other teams do as well. But I think there's a lot of great options out there. The Alamo Bowl has always been traditionally one where you're going to get a really good opponent from probably Big 12 country. San Antonio is a phenomenal place to go enjoy the holidays and have a football game. The other options out there, Vegas, is just a great destination for our fans to get to, easy to get to, and a really good matchup. And then the Holiday Bowl in San Diego would be really fun. And that would be on January 2nd this year. I think there's some really good ones hanging out there that I know Washington just needs to get a win to get itself as best positioned as possible in order to get the best postseason spot as possible. But I know right now everybody's attention's on Oregon, squarely focused on the Ducks and meeting number 118 coming up on Saturday.
All right. Tony, we appreciate the insight. You are the voice that we turn to for all things UW. So whether it's basketball or football, any parting words that you want to leave us with?
No, just it's a great time to be a Husky. Danny Sprinkle's doing a great job getting this team to come together on the men's basketball side. We talked about women's soccer off the top, and man, our hearts and our orange ribbons are with them as they make their run toward what could be a national championship. We'll just have to see how far this thing keeps going. And then a massive football game, one of my favorite football games coming up on Saturday. So great time to be a dog. We are really, really enjoying all the success we're having in all these different sports.
All right, that is Tony Castricona, the play-by-play for not only UW football, but basketball as well. You saw him there on the road. He'll have more coverage, be on the call for their next game here. Meanwhile, I do want to let you get a look outside, boy. We are really socked in on some of these cameras today, but it really depends on where you are located. So when we return from the break, we're going to check in with Chief Meteorologist Brian McMillan, give you an idea of what we're dealing with out there in terms of our weather picture.
I'm Chief Meteorologist Brian McMillan of the Fox Local Live Desk. Let's get right into your forecast. I want to take a look back here on the month so far and how we've done, and check it out. We are tracking almost perfectly to where we would typically be up to this point in November at 5¼ inches of rain. And that is right where we're at right now. So rain-wise, looking good. We are going to dry out over the next few days after we get through the Thanksgiving holiday. Here's a look at your Wednesday. Today, mostly cloudy skies. I do see rain returning later on tonight after sunset, but the majority of the day looks great. If you got to go out and do your shopping or get your food at the grocery store, maybe even hang some Christmas lights, today would be a good day to do that. Then we get into Thanksgiving, and we're going to be looking at showers on and off pretty much all day long. So if you want to take a little post-dinner walk, I would definitely check the radar on your app on your phone to make sure that you're not going to be hitting some rain. Friday looks great. Back to morning clouds, afternoon sunshine, and your weekend is looking dry as well. Snow levels, now a lot of people were asking me this here this morning via email and social media. What about the passes here coming up tonight and tomorrow with this new system arriving? Well, looks like it's just going to be rain to me as those snow levels rise to about 5,000 feet, even 6,000 feet at one point. So at most, at the higher elevations, I'm talking Stevens, Blewett, and White passes, we could see some flakage mixed in with the rain, kind of that chunky rain look, but I'm not expecting it to impact the roadways. Snoqualmie Pass won't even be seeing that. They'll just be looking at rain coming up over the next 24 to 36 hours. And again, then we dry out Friday through the weekend. So today and tomorrow, let's get into that. Looking good today. Wet Thursday for your pass travel. Heading to British Columbia, we're going to have a dry day, and you won't see rain until late tonight. If you're heading to Portland, though, we'll see increasing afternoon rain, because that rain that we're going to be seeing this evening is all coming from Oregon. Heading to Spokane, wet roads along I-90, and we'll be looking at a few areas of compact snow and ice on US 2. But you know what? Overall, a really great weekend for travel. We just had to get through yesterday where we had 14 inches of snow up there at Stevens Pass. Highs today topping out in the upper 40s and low 50s. East of the Cascades will be in the 40s in Spokane, Wenatchee, and Yakima. Portland and Eugene will be into the low to mid 50s today, and that's where you're going to be seeing a little bit more rain. And across the country, yeah, we got this colder air that has moved into the Great Plains and the northern Midwest. Minneapolis only topping out in the upper 20s. You look at Bismarck, I mean, that's usually a cold spot this time of year, but 24 will be the high there. But then the East Coast, what an improvement, huh? DC at 71 today. All right, your 7-day forecast back here at home. We're into the low 50s for the next few days. A drier day in store for us for Friday. And then Saturday and Sunday, I think Saturday clouds up a bit, but stays dry. Sunday, we're back to partly cloudy skies for that Seahawks game. And then we get into next week. I'm not seeing any showers in the forecast until we get into Tuesday. And even still, it's just a few light showers. So have a wonderful holiday coming up here. Get all cozy in the house because it'll be wet on and off throughout your Thanksgiving. And enjoy the dry 3 days that we have after that.
All right, welcome back into the Fox Local Live Desk once again. I am Matthew Smith. Got a live look out at SeaTac. Another busy day out there. Not seeing anything, though, in terms of concerns that would get you tied up out there other than what we typically expect to see around the holiday. Meanwhile, continue to track news headlines coming into our Fox 13 Seattle newsroom. One of the two suspects in the drive-by murder of two teens brothers in Lacey was back in court today. Jaden Hawk Johns was charged, accused of being behind the wheel the night those two teens were shot and killed. Now, he didn't enter a plea yesterday when the accused gunman, Traquan Wilson, made his plea because of availability of his lawyer. However, we were back inside the courtroom earlier today when Jaden Hawk Johns went back before the judge. I'm going to hand you off to some of that coverage that our photographer was able to get inside the courtroom today.
Your arraignment hearing. At this hearing, the court hears from your attorney with your initial plea to charges and then sets dates in your case. During this hearing, if you need to have a private conversation with Attorney Reardon, ask her a question about what's going on in the hearing. Attorney Reardon can mute the jail booth so that you can speak privately. I'll ask Attorney Reardon just to let me know that that's going to happen, but you have the court's ongoing permission to speak with your client as need be during the hearing. Are you prepared to go forward with arraignment, Attorney Reardon?
Yes, we are, Your Honor. Mr. Johns and I have reviewed a copy of the information. He's received a copy. We've waived formal reading of all 5 counts. We would note it does not appear that count 5 is properly joined, but we can bring further motions later. We're asking the court to set over for omnibus, and then we may need to set some further scheduling hearings and motion hearings. Thank you.
Right. Mr. Johns, on your behalf, at your attorney's request, the court is entering not guilty pleas to the 5 counts on the information that was filed by the state on November 24th, 2025. Next, the court is going to set dates in your case. Does the state have dates to propose?
I do, Your Honor. I'd ask to set Mr. Johns on a 60-day track with omnibus being set for December 17th at 9 a.m., trial confirmation January 8th of 2026 at 9 a.m., and trial beginning January 20th at 9 a.m.
Do those dates work for Defense Attorney Reardon?
They do at this time, Your Honor. I suspect investigative needs will be moving those most likely at omnibus.
And I would note those are the same dates for the co-defendant, Mr. Wilson Mason, as well.
All right. So the court's going to set those dates at this stage on the standard 60-day in custody trial track. The attorneys can request modification of those dates going forward as the case demands require. Mr. Johns, I'm going to sign an order here in the courtroom that sets those dates. It's going to go electronically to the jail room behind you for your review and signature. That is going to complete your hearing for today, unless there's anything else. Defense, anything else?
Nothing else, Your Honor. Thank you.
Anything else from the state?
All right, and if you recognize the name Jaden Hawk Johns, because we shared this video with you just a week ago, Thurston County deputies ended up chasing him. He was identified then at the time just as a 20-year-old driver attached to this Lacey drive-by shooting that killed 2 teens, but we can now tell you that is Jaden Hawk Johns that was behind the wheel. This was huge because at one point in time they tried to stop his car with that grappler system you've probably heard about out in Thurston County, where they can basically like throw a rope underneath the car, get caught up and try to stop the vehicle. It was moving at such a high speed that he tore that right off. Then they tried a pit maneuver on the vehicle and eventually rolled the car. You can see some of the attempts to stop him right there on your screen where that grappler breaks off from the vehicle. There was a call at that point in time that Lacey police were seeking surveillance video in and around the area where the actual shooting took place. We have more coverage of that over on Fox 13 Seattle KingCountyDailyNews.com if you want to get some more details on that story. All right, that is just one of the stories that we've been tracking for you here as a newsroom today. Also want to get you guys caught up on the King County Day of Service. Now, this was a situation unfolding because the King County Executive noted that there's been a lot of issues, food security in our area. Yesterday, we brought you that live coverage of him being sworn into office. Today, he kicked off what he called a day of service, where he was going to be hitting up food banks in and around our viewing area. Our morning crew was able to catch up with him at one of those stops. This was the Rainier Valley Food Bank earlier this morning, where the executive director actually chatted with our crew about what a day like this means, what this focus means.
What are we doing here today?
We are celebrating the fact that we have executive leadership who wants to be involved in solving our community issues. We love that Executive Zahalai has been a part of our community since we moved into this building. He was here for our groundbreaking. He supported our staff through a heat wave by bringing water down here. So he's always been a part of our community, and we're thrilled that he can be here with us today as we do grocery distribution for community members ahead of the holiday.
What is it people at home don't understand about food insecurity?
That it affects a lot of their neighbors. 1 in 10 members of our community in King County are food insecure. I think that that's an important statistic. What it means is that people are very fragile. We've seen a lot of layoffs. You may not think your neighbor has an issue in this regard, but they lose their job and suddenly their personal economy has changed and they find themselves visiting a food bank. So when SNAP happened, that was a big deal and made a lot of headlines, made a lot of news. But when somebody gets laid off, that doesn't always make headlines, right? But they are still coming to the food bank and trying to be served and trying to get connected to things that help them maintain their family stability.
Are you hopeful for this next administration that there's going to be a little more highlight on getting you all more funding, anything like that?
You know, we always welcome additional funding. That goes without saying in the nonprofit environment, right? The truth of the matter is that Exec Zahalai helped us receive funding to build this building. We just moved in about a month ago and completed a capital project, and King County gave us some money to help us make that possible. We are looking forward to opportunities to make more food available, to also solve some of the system issues that we have, to make sure that food gets where it needs to go and that we move waste out of the system. And we feel like with his convening with other providers, we can solve some of those systemic problems and make this problem go away. That's our goal, working our way out of a job.
All right, that is, again, the Rainier Valley Food Bank Executive Director Gloria Hatcher-Mays talking at one of the stops that newly elected King County Executive Gurmai Zahalai stopped by today, hitting up a few of those spots. We have a little bit more news still to come here on the Fox Local Live Desk. That's going to include checking in with the Seattle Seahawks. If you were watching us live on YouTube earlier today, I know we handed off some of you guys to that feed while we jumped in on some of this DC coverage, but want to get you an update as the team looks ahead to their next opponent, the Minnesota Vikings. All right, welcome in one last time. Getting ready to hand you off to Seattle News Tonight in just a little bit here. For all of our viewers on Fox 13 Plus, we'll get you details on how to switch it over. Everybody else, you'll get to stay right here, and we'll do a nice little handoff for you. But before we let you go, I mentioned this earlier, we cover so much local news, but we have these big breaking national stories. We like to jump in and make sure you guys get covered. So while a few of our viewers at the top of the noon hour were digesting and getting some details about this shooting of 2 National Guard members out in D.C., we actually routed some of you over to YouTube, one of the many places you can catch us. Remember, YouTube, fox13seattle.com, and of course the Fox Local Live app. We're not just on TV between 1 and 4. We're here whenever news breaks. And one of the things we pushed you over to YouTube for was because we split our newscast and basically had that national coverage while we checked in on the Seahawks live on the Fox 13 Seattle YouTube page. For those who didn't see it, let's get caught up with head coach Mike Macdonald ahead of Thanksgiving. Looking ahead to the Minnesota Vikings, we'll jump in with one of the questions being asked by one of the members of the press that was in attendance today.
With Julian, do you have an idea, like, is he going to be back this year? Is it a concern that he might not?
I expect him to be back this year, and we're really hoping for next week that's what we're shooting for. But I've been wrong before.
D'Anthony Bell had to jump into that spot when Ty went down the other. How do you feel he's done both in the game Sunday and throughout the year for you, kind of that depth?
Yeah, I mean it's another. It's like I feel like we have these conversations every week with guys that get opportunities, and when we had an opportunity to get D Bell in the building, Jeff Howard had a lot of had a history with him, and we knew what type of player he was on special teams, and get to he's a physical player out on defense as well. I think he's shown those things. Working to be as decisive as those guys, and he did a great job of coming in and operating without a lot of reps, which is not that easy thing to do from what we ask our safeties to do. So that was really cool.
What putting Shaquille on the 53 and waving Derrick Kendrick, I guess, what kind of went into that? Shaquille on?
Yeah, I mean, we hope to get DK back. Just Shaq's been doing a great job, and felt like that was the right move. And it wasn't just like a 1-for-1, like just subbing out DK for Shaq. There's some other things going on roster-wise too, is what helped drive that decision.
Getting Patrick O'Connell up to the 53. I know he's a guy you praised after the game. What has he done over the course of the time you've been here to kind of build himself up to where he is now?
Well, I describe him as steadfast. I mean, he gets here I see his car more often than not when I'm getting here. So that's, 6 a.m. or whatever. And he's just here every day working on his body, preparing. And then he's a guy that's always been available. He takes a ton of reps. He practices 100 miles an hour all the time. And it's not like he's been, nobody's perfect in those moments, but as a coach, you respect the effort and the competitor and the guy that just keep coming back after he's gotten some situations where he's gotten not really the best news that reflects like the effort that he's put forward, which is a tough situation. When you play well enough to be on an NFL team and you don't make the team, that's a hard thing to do, and so it speaks a lot for him to just go back and just keep attacking it like he did. And so that's why you're so happy for him, because Cody White's another example of that, of guys that just have stuck to it and had a great attitude, and that goes a long way with our team, because.
All right, that was head coach Mike Macdonald talking a little bit about really what makes his team as they get ready for the Minnesota Vikings. I know that was only just a short little tidbit, but we only have so much time left here on the Fox Local Live Desk. A reminder, if you're watching this on Fox 13 Plus, what you can do is switch it over to Fox 13. We'll be kicking things off there in about 3 minutes. Everybody else, just hang out here. We're going to take a little bit of an extended break since we didn't have too many. As always, we appreciate you guys stopping by.